I promise you I'm not looking for a reason to be bothered by this. But for some reason, it's not sitting well with me. And I don't know if it's just me. It might be just me based on some of the reaction I got last night on social media. But the idea that we're going to sit here on a Tuesday morning and be like, gosh, Lindsey Graham is dead. Who do we replace him with to finish out his term? Oh, we're going to do it with his sister? You know, my litmus test, and by the way, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. It was a beautiful morning. I know we're going to get up to about 90 today, but it was, I don't know. It just felt good walking out of the house today. So enjoy it when you get outside. But my litmus test for this is oftentimes if the party that I don't agree with did something like this, you know? If Elizabeth Warren put her daughter in there, how would I feel? Or her brother. If Bernie Sanders tapped, his cousin, his commie cousin, Carl, or something like that, to take his spot in the United States Senate. If, God forbid, something happened to somebody else that, I don't care for politically in the United States Senate, what would I say? How would I view it? I'd be like, well, that's bizarre. Never mind when it's the Republican Party that supposedly, is the party of meritocracy, right? Meritocracy is all about getting to where you want to be based on your actual merits, not based on who you know, not based on nepotism, but can you do the job? And it's nothing against Darlene Graham Nordone. I mean, I watched her yesterday. She seems like a very pleasant person. I'm more than obviously happy to talk about her amazing upbringing where Lindsey Graham raises her and adopts her when he's 23 and she's 13. It was Kansas U.S. Senator Roger Marshall who actually shared this story yesterday right here on this show.
His parents die when he's 23. He has a little sister who's 13 at the time. He legally adopts his little sister. We've got to meet her many times, and you just can't go a conversation where Lindsey doesn't talk about his little sister. So just a loving guy and just humorous, witty, genuine, authentic, all those things. So we're just going to miss him horribly.
So that was Roger Marshall, and you may have heard some of those stories about Lindsey Graham's sister and their upbringing, and Lindsey adopts Darlene when she's 13 and he's 23 when their parents die. And I mean, yeah, that's an amazing story. It's really nice. It doesn't mean you're qualified to be a United States senator. It doesn't mean that that's how the process should go. And I'm not saying he needs somebody who's got like deep knowledge of Washington, D.C. Heck, Trump proved that you don't need that to get into political power. But, Donald Trump was elected. I'm not a fan of picking family for the sake of making it family. Now, I know we had a story like this here in Missouri, right? Mel Carnahan ends up getting replaced by his wife in the early 2000s to serve as the state's junior U.S. senator from 2001 to 2002. So, I know that that's happened before. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. But the way that Republicans were celebrating it yesterday and being like, this is what Lindsey would want. Well, what do the people want? What maybe is in the best interests of the people? And I posted this yesterday on social media and, listen, more people disagreed than agreed, and that's fine. But one guy, Justin, wrote back to me here. He says, it's not a bad look to replace Lindsey Graham, who just died with a sister. He said, a caretaker is just fine. He writes to me, the alternative is picking someone who will run for the full term and the people don't really decide because incumbents hardly ever lose. Well, I don't think it's that black and white. There are plenty of people who would gladly play placeholder for Lindsey Graham until the end of his term. There are many people, I'm sure, in South Carolina who would do that. And the notion of, well, the only person who could properly honor his legacy and be a placeholder is his sister? It just feels like they're basically playing Broadway sometimes in Congress and the United States Senate. And it's nothing personal. I saw Trump floated out earlier in the day after I got off the air. Trump was the first one. He probably knew it was going to happen. Hey, we got to have Lindsey's sister in there. And I'm like, why? Because of what? And then it happens, and I'm like, okay, this thing was kind of teed up after the tragedy on Sunday. And, Trey Gowdy, would that have been an option? Now, maybe some of you are like, well, Trey Gowdy would want to be a United States senator. Okay, then find someone fairly prominent in South Carolina politics who's like, I'm willing to play placeholder for a little bit in honor of Lindsey. Find that person. Make them pledge to not run, and away you go. That's what you do. But you know what? What if Joe Biden had tapped like Hunter Biden for something? Oh, my gosh. And I'm not comparing in any way Darlene Graham Nordone to Hunter Biden. My point is, nepotism is rarely looked at fondly in the United States Congress and in politics. And you know what? It shouldn't be. Okay? It shouldn't be. It's one of the reasons that people were done with the Bush family, done with the Clinton family. People were done. In America, we don't do that. At least most of us. We don't elect people because of their last name. I don't do it, and I know many of you don't do it. So it was one of those things where I was like, I'm not losing sleep over it, but I didn't love the look for the GOP yesterday. So that was obviously the top story in the wake of Lindsey Graham's sudden death on Saturday night into Sunday morning. Now, last night, Mark, I got to admit, I didn't watch any of the Home Run Derby. I never pulled the plug on Netflix. I didn't watch it last night. How did Jack Caglione do for us?
It wasn't great. He didn't advance to the second round, but he did hit 8 home runs, and he hit a couple bombs to the triple. I don't know if you'd call it the triple, the upper deck.
The upper deck in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was so a couple of bombs were really impressive, but he couldn't quite get there. The format was a little bit different this year. They each had 25 pitches in the first round, so you basically just had to do what you could with those 25.
The best part may have been his father pitching to him, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So Dad, and I guess I saw a little bit on social media that Dad was throwing some heat last night to Jack Caglione. Some fans were whining about his dad not being the best pitcher for the Home Run Derby. I'm like, geez.
Sometimes the dads get a little overzealous, I think.
Now that's the kind of nepotism I like. Okay,
Fun.
I don't mind nepotism if Dad's throwing you meatballs in the Home Run Derby. It's an exhibition. It's fun. Now if Dad's the manager, because, that's what Son wants, and Son's a great player on the team, we got a problem. But Dad pitching to his kid in the Home Run Derby, I like that kind of nepotism.
And as they were getting ready to walk off after he got the last out, you hear him, like, it's kind of a hot mic moment, but he's like, man, this was fun, Dad.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you hear that, and it's like, man, that's a good time.
That's a great time. That's very cool. So he didn't get out of the first round, though. Oh, man. All right.
Yeah, he beat the Yankees guy.
Oh, he did?
He had more home runs than the Yankees player Ben Rice, so that's what I like.
That's a win in my book.
Yep.
All right. Royals stink, Mets stink, but if we can take down the Yankees in the process, I'm all in.
There was some high drama at the end, though. It was Jordan Walker coming out. He had to hit 4 straight home runs to win it, and he did it.
And he beat Kyle Schwarber, right?
Kyle Schwarber, yep.
The hometown kid out of Philadelphia.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I was bringing home Chloe from her final softball practice clinic, whatever you want to call it, that she did the last few weeks. So we were busy getting a little Dairy Queen on the ride home and debating over whether or not she was going to get sprinkles and a cone and how that was going to go. So by the time I got home at 7:15, eat a little ice cream, got a shower, I'm like, you know what? Everyone has to go to bed. I've got to go to bed. I'm not going to kick in the money to Netflix, who I'm annoyed with because of some of their woke kid shows, and buy this Home Run Derby to watch it for all of 20 minutes and fall asleep. I'm just not going to do it. All right? So I didn't do it. I held to my guns. I almost felt bad about it because I thought Mark was going to shame me when I came in here this morning, but I couldn't pull the trigger on it.
No, you're good. I think that this you can watch the highlights.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
That's all you need.
In the last hour or so before we got on the air, I saw some of Caglione's big home runs for the Royals, and Bobby Witt Jr. was right there cheering him on. So these guys, listen, it's been a rough season for them, but they're there in Philly for the All-Star break this week, having a great time and supporting one another. So that is very, very cool to see. Now, what's not cool to see is what I read it's a brutal media outlet here in Kansas City. And, the analogy that I'll use for this next story here from KCUR is like when you try to figure out why something is happening and you want to justify, man, there seem to be more traffic accidents when there's a half moon and, it's a month that ends in R. And you're like, no, these things have nothing to do with each other. Well, that's exactly what KCOR did in this absurd piece yesterday, talking about Kansas City arrests. And I'll share it with you coming up right here on KCMO Talk Radio.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, President Trump's Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, will join the show, as will Eli Lake, coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
Headline here from KCUR yesterday. ICE arrested at least 30 Kansas City residents during the World Cup in deportation push. Deportation push, writes KCUR. As the Trump administration continues to bolster deportation efforts, by the way, that's not true. They've actually backed off a little bit on the ICE stuff. I know that for a fact. It's been a strategy that the administration has quietly deployed. And Mark Wayne Mullen, who, of course, took over for that freak Kristi Noem. Well, I guess her husband's the freak. I don't know. They're both freaks. She's shooting dogs. He's, cross-dressing. I don't know what's going on in that house.
Just not safe to go in, yeah.
I just read they filed for divorce maybe last week or something like that.
I'm not a fan of divorce, but in the case of those two, everyone might be better off. All right? But anyway, I know for a fact that Mark Wayne Mullen, who took over for Kristi Noem, was quietly backing away from some of the ICE arrests and deportations at the behest of President Trump, because they don't want that issue being a major midterm topic that the Democrats can beat them up over. I know that. So when KCUR writes, as the Trump administration continues to bolster deportation efforts, that's just not accurate with what I know and what I'm sharing with you here on KCMO. They write, local advocacy groups have reported a rise in immigrant arrests between June 15th and July 3rd, while Kansas City hosted World Cup matches. The increased ICE presence across the Kansas City metro area has kept residents on edge. Has it kept you on edge? To write that as if it's fact, the increased ICE presence across the metro has kept residents on edge. You mean the 7 people that you talked to in Waldo?
No, they mean the newsroom there.
Yeah, that's right. That's like, who exactly are you talking about here? You're writing, it's one thing to have the opinion. Hey, my opinion, if you write for KCUR, is that the administration, according to people I talk to, is still deporting folks around Kansas City, and the people I talk to are on edge. That doesn't make it a fact. And they write here, they share a couple of anecdotal stories, and, they write about this guy who was mowing his lawn on July 6th when 5 officers, of course they write it like this, 5 masked military officers wearing military tactical vests and plain clothing approached his front yard and detained him. What are they supposed to wear? Suit and tie? What would you like them to put on? Okay? I mean, yeah, they are dressed like cops. And yeah, they wear face masks because guess what's happened? Some of these local advocacy groups, air quotes, have doxed these poor guys and their families to the point where they have to hide their identities. ICE agents, have been targeted. Look at what happened in Dallas with that rooftop shooter. Now, they didn't hit the ICE agents, but that's who that guy was targeting. He ends up hitting instead, the people that were getting detained by ICE. But that guy was looking to get a hold of the ICE agents and shoot them on that rooftop in Dallas a few months ago. So that's why, not to relitigate that, but that's why these guys end up having to wear masks in some cases. So they go on to write that this guy who was mowing the lawn was ultimately detained, and as of July 10th, his neighbor this guy still remains in lockup. The case is one of dozens reported across Kansas City during the World Cup, amid intensified immigration enforcement operations being reported across the country. Now, was this happening during the World Cup because ICE was just doing its job, or was it happening because of the World Cup? They're conflating these two things. They're suggesting that the World Cup is what led to these arrests. But actually, when you read the story, the World Cup is just the thing that happens to be going on while ICE is doing its job and arresting and detaining people. The World Cup has nothing to do with it, but they're trying to tie this all together, and it's not factually fair or accurate. The guy was not detained in his front lawn because the World Cup was going on. The guy was detained because he is alleged to have broken some federal immigration crime. But they write it with the backdrop of, well, the World Cup is happening. Therefore, immigrants are being targeted illegally or legally. And that's not true. That is in no way accurate. But it's very much par for the course and on brand for KCUR, which is trying to just sell you on the emotion. They don't want to sell you on the facts because they can't really sell you on the facts. That's not what they're all that good at. That's not their area of expertise. But they can make you feel something. If you're a sucker, they can definitely make you feel something. You can disagree with the administration's policies, if you so choose to, on the immigration front. You have absolutely that prerogative, and we can debate that all day at 913-408-7957. We can do it. But to suggest that, well, ICE arrested at least 30 residents, they claim, by the way, during the World Cup in a deportation push. Well, the World Cup was going on for 5-6 weeks. And the World Cup, as far as we know, at least it wasn't laid out in this story, had nothing to do with why these arrests took place when they took place over the last few weeks. It just so happened that the World Cup was going on. And this is a perfect example of how media tries to hoodwink a gullible audience. This right here is exactly how it goes down. 913-408-7957 is our text line and our studio line as we approach 6:30, bottom of the hour, right here on KCMO Talk Radio on a Tuesday morning. Mike Kehoe is the governor of Missouri. He is going to join me just after 7 o'clock. And we've got Jason Aldean tickets to give away starting at 8:15 and then again with Kevin Keatsman at 10:45 on KCMO.
Hi, everybody. McGraw-Milhaven here, host of America at Night. Our 250th anniversary shows continue, where we look at the national parks. Coming up at 8 o'clock only on 95.7 FM.
Got that summertime feel on a Tuesday morning across Kansas City. It's great to have you here. Speaking of McGraw-Milhaven, we are selling those tickets quickly for our America 250 event coming up September 16th, Boulevard Brewing, and the tickets are on sale right now at kcmotalkradio.com. McGraw-Milhaven, Guy Benson, Vince Colonnese, all coming to Kansas City. I've got to book all these, the travel for these guys. I mean, I'm getting some help here in the building, but I got to handle all the travel for these guys, so I'm trying my best to not screw up, TSA pre-check numbers and everything else, because if something goes wrong, they're going to blame me. And that's fine. I'll take it. But we're about halfway sold out for that event, and it's still like over 2 months away. So if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, grab them right now at kcmotalkradio.com. We'll be at Boulevard September 16th. McGraw-Milhaven, Vince Colonnese, myself, Keatsman, Guy Benson, all in the house. It's going to be a great time. And Mark's trying to figure out what hat he's going to wear. John's going to figure out what crazy shirt he's going to wear. Mark's got his Royals 250 hat on.
This is the hat that I want to wear.
That's the hat he wants to wear to Boulevard on September 16th. It's going to look good. And
Just
John,
going for modest but chic,
Well, you don't wear hats, John, because when you got that hair at your age, there's no reason to put anything on
Right.
that head. It's just too good, man. It's too good. Although, you know what? A buddy sent me a photo. He ran for Congress back in 2018, and he came into our old studios in Mission. He sent me a photo, John, last night, and you're in the picture. It's your back in the old studios looking into the host studio where I would sit. And you look younger. Your hair's darker, just like mine. So we're both going gray over the last 8 years. Maybe we're doing it to each other. I don't know.
Well, it's like the presidential thing, compare presidents their first year in office by number 4.
Yeah.
We all have the wisdom highlights by then.
Yeah, you're right about that. But it was a photo from 2018. I was like, geez, John and I have been doing this that long? Doesn't seem like that. I don't know if that's good or bad. But I did see this yesterday. So we talked about it yesterday, but it went to a vote. The House Rules Committee teed up a floor vote on the Sunshine Protection Act, which would allow states to enact daylight saving time year-round with an option to opt out. The committee approved the rule in a 6-4 vote. So what this means is that the full House will now get a chance to vote on whether or not to make daylight saving time the permanent time across the country. So the time we're in right now. So basically, we would not fall back. If you're new here, I think it's a garbage idea. It still is not something that is, I would say, likely to happen. Getting this through the United States Senate seems like a hurdle to me. Heck, it may not ultimately get through the House of Representatives. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But we're getting closer to at least this thing potentially, theoretically, ultimately becoming law. I don't like it because it's not really the natural way of our circadian rhythm. It is a made-up time. That's all that it is. It's not standard time. It's a made-up time. And the idea of having the sun rise at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, depending on where you are in parts of Missouri and Kansas, just is not safe, it's not healthy, and it's not natural. So yesterday we talked to, at the end of the show, we talked to a guy named JP. And his name is not JP. His name is JAYPEA, which is so bizarre, I know. But his name is JP. And he's a part of the organization Save Standard Time. They're a 501c4 nonprofit. And he's lobbied this stuff, to states. He lives in Arizona, which does not acknowledge daylight saving time. They are just on permanent standard time, so good on them. And he explained yesterday right here on KCMO the health reasons behind why standard time is the way.
You need light in the morning to stimulate your natural hormone, the cortisol, to wake up and feel good. And you need darkness in the evening to stimulate the melatonin to fall asleep. When we're on standard time, we have that balance of sunlight, and it's working well. When we're on daylight saving time, we're actually sleeping less, an average 19 minutes less.
every single night on daylight saving time, and that cuts into your safety, driving your car, your workplace productivity. I've seen studies showing that the productivity can be decreased on daylight saving time by 3 to 5%. Car accidents, fatal crashes increasing by 20% when the clock is not aligned to the sun. So it's really important that we get a good night's rest every night, and that's what standard time makes easier for most Americans.
So that interview, by the way, is up on our podcast. If you want to check that out after the show, you can find it Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So I agree with him. That's my preferred time, standard time. Does it mean that the sun would be coming up at about 5 o'clock in the morning here in Kansas City right now? Yeah. Do I think that's the worst thing? No. Selfishly, more of you would be awake to listen to our 6 o'clock hour. Okay, fine. That's not the main reason, but it's not a bad benefit as well as, you get up earlier, you get that sunlight earlier, and you know what? We still have it light out until like 8 o'clock at the very least here in Kansas City. That is plenty of sunlight. So this thing is moving forward. It will go to a House vote. If you're super passionate about it, you can call up Mark Alford. You can call up Sharice Davids. You can call up Derek Schmidt. Call up Tracy Mann. Call up Sam Graves. Call up the musty man himself, Emmanuel Cleveland.
You muster moo.
You can call them all. And you can tell them, if you guys are going to vote on this, I am a no on daylight saving time. And it's interesting because this is not falling along the Democrat-Republican lines. I'm not seeing that, at least anecdotally and on social media. I see a lot of great conservatives who are fans of it. I see a lot of liberals who are fans of it. I don't think it really matters. It's more just personal preference is what this appears to be. Nothing about this appears to be political based on R versus D, which is fascinating to me because those issues and those topics that don't cut along party lines are sometimes more intriguing as to the why they don't cut along party lines. Yesterday, if you missed it, Keatsman was incredible on this radio station. He was just going off on his experience at Margaritaville, the Argentinian soccer team's wives and girlfriends were very unpleasant to Kevin and his buddies as they were trying to celebrate one of his friends' birthdays. And you know what was hilarious to me about the story? It results in Kevin obviously talking about how, hey, the Sporting KC owners are making a fortune. FIFA's corrupt. They're dumping millions of dollars into the hotel stays of the teams and the families and the taxpayers getting screwed. And he's right about everything. I mean, I completely agree with him. But what I thought got buried in the story, or I guess what I got the biggest kick out of in the whole story yesterday when he was talking about this, how did it start? How did the whole thing start between Kevin, his friends, and the wives and girlfriends of the Argentinian soccer team? Kevin and his buddies wanted to see if they could get out of a hammock. Right, Mark? You're the producer of the show. That's how the whole thing started.
Yeah, I was laughing over here so bad. It was like, can they not just jump in and have a good time?
A bunch of guys, early 60s are joking with each other to see if they could get themselves out of a hammock. And that's what started the whole thing. And then the Argentinian wives and girlfriends are like, that's my hammock. And the whole thing started over a bunch of guys joking with each other as to whether or not they could get in and easily get out of a hammock at their age. And that sets off the whole ordeal. And it results in the birthday boy that Kevin was with storming out of Margaritaville in KCK because he was so fed up with these Argentinians and how they were treating Kevin and his friends and their wives and everyone else. All over a hammock spoof, a joke. And yesterday, I was in a sales meeting after the show, and it was funny, too. There was, one of my sales managers, he's in his mid-60s now, And he has some rental properties, and he was doing some work over the last week. And he's telling me how he does flooring work in his rental properties. He does it himself to save money. And he's like, the hardest part is getting up. That's the hardest part. And I'm like, you sound like Keithman. He's wondering if he can get out of a hammock. I got my sales manager wondering whether or not he can get off the floor after he's doing flooring work in his rental properties. And I'm like, gosh, guys, this is what I've got to look forward to? Killing me.
The other day when I was in the newsroom, I crawled under there for that computer disconnect, and I got up, and you're like, hey, that was pretty good. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe I'm in the upper 75 percentile in my group. I don't know.
I don't know, John. You got great doctors and great health, despite what I see you eat and drink across the glass there all the time. I don't know how you do it. It must be great genes or something.
I should have written it all down. It may be a secret diet.
Right? It's that Dr. Pepper and those Cheetos you enjoy every morning. I don't know.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, I know. Mark and I got 30 years here, but we want to follow John.
How to keep your hair and get up off the floor. I'm gonna get a YouTube channel going here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Kevin was on fire. Now I just need him to come around on this Chiefs deal. I think he's close, though. I think he's close. He's realizing that we got scammed on FIFA monetarily, and now I think he's coming around on that Chiefs deal, too. I think he is. I got you. He's coming on board, Kev. Let's go. We'll get to our top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. We call it the 6 at 6. That is next right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Now, it's summertime, so that means what? You're outside more, cookouts, family gatherings, and people walking around the property, right? Well, if you've got sinking or uneven concrete, that can become a real trip hazard. The good news is the folks at KC Pier, they deal with this all the time. Between our heavy clay soil and all the rain that we've had, concrete slabs are shifting and settling and creating problems on driveways, sidewalks, patios, porches, and steps. So you may not need to replace the concrete. KC Pier's polyjacking service can lift and level sunken concrete quickly and affordably. Before your next backyard party or family get-together, have KC Pier come take a look. Let them help eliminate those trip hazards, keep the focus on making memories, not worrying about someone getting hurt. Schedule that assessment, the free assessment today at kcpier.com. That's kcpier.com. The phone number is right on the website. And when you call them, guess what? Somebody in Kansas City picks up the phone, not an AI call center, not a robot. That's KC Pier, Kansas City owned. They also have lifetime warranties on certain projects. Go to kcpier.com.
The fun's not done after Mundo in the Morning. Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Join me for Uncanceled at 10 o'clock right here on KCMO Talk Radio.
6:50 on a Tuesday morning across Kansas City. Great to have you here on 95.7 FM and then also now in Topeka on 102.9 FM. Let's get to our 6 at 6.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
A 5-year-old boy is in critical condition after being struck by a car in Independence. Officers with the Independence Police Department were called to the intersection of West Truman Road and North River Boulevard 5:40 last night on reports of an injury crash involving a vehicle and a pedestrian. Preliminary investigation revealed a 2022 Subaru Ascent was driving west on Truman Road when it struck a 5-year-old boy. Video surveillance footage from the area showed the child walking on a sidewalk with a group of children when he suddenly darted into the road. Based on the investigation, the driver of the Subaru did not have an opportunity to avoid the collision. 5-year-old transported to an area hospital where he remains in critical condition, and investigation is ongoing. So, someone who's got 7, 5, and 2, oh my gosh, it just breaks your heart. Be careful. Have an adult between the child and the roadway on a sidewalk. And I'm not saying that anyone did anything wrong. We don't know what happened. I'm not going there. I'm just saying do everything that you can because, boy, that is potentially a tragic situation. No doubt about it.
Number 2.
Next up in our 6 at 6 here on KCMO Talk Radio. The President of the United States announced yesterday he will give a speech Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know what's coming out of this speech. There are some rumors as to what's coming out of this speech. I do not like where the rumors are going. If the rumors are true, that it's tied to, election fraud in Georgia from 2020, that is what the rumors are. No one's confirmed that. That's just what the speculation has been. We'll get to more on that next hour, but we'll see. 9 o'clock Thursday night Eastern Time is what the president is planning to have a speech around, and we will carry that right here on KCMO Talk Radio.
Number 3.
Well, there were new strikes on Iran last night. The U.S. launched strikes early Tuesday morning, hours after President Trump said Washington is reinstating a blockade on Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. The president separately suggested the U.S. will charge other ships for safe passage, upending hundreds of years of what has been traditional American policy, supporting freedom of navigating across the globe. Now, the problem here is that Iran has tried to shut down the strait. So now the U.S. is saying, okay, if you're going to shut down the strait, we are going to be the ones to control and shut down the strait as we see fit. So this is not on the United States. Oil is up to about $80 a barrel. That is a big jump from where it was about 10 days ago when we were down to about $65, $66 a barrel. So it's up 8-9% over the last week or so. Dow futures dropped 300 points as there is some concern over what exactly the next step is in this war, but we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Number 4.
In KCK, a family was attacked by 3 dogs, and a beloved pet ended up getting killed in the process. Abby Raviel had just fed her 2 dogs, Bella and Bentley, at about 5 p.m. They went outside to get the mail. Both dogs were on leashes. What happened next? Everything changed. A German Shepherd crossed the street and attacked Abby and punctured her wrist before she could react. 2 pit bulls joined the attack, and before you know it, one of her dogs ended up getting killed. I don't get it, man. I don't. Between the German Shepherds and the pit bulls, I do not understand it at all. But this was one of the lead stories last night on Fox 4. And, we've had the conversation around pit bulls, right? Where do you allow them? Where do you not allow them? What should municipalities do? Well, Bella, a 6-year-old schnauzer, is the one who died on Saturday night in KCK.
Number 5.
All right, on a lighter note, Home Run Derby taking place last night. That aired exclusively on Netflix. And it was Jordan Walker of the St. Louis Cardinals, who came back to beat Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies, who was the hometown guy. Everyone was rooting for him. Of course, the event was in Philadelphia last night. And Walker, well, he put on a real show. He ends up beating Schwarber 12-11 in the finals. Unbelievable. And you want to see something I saw last night on social media? So Jordan Walker was selected with the 21st pick in the first round of the 2020 Major League Baseball draft. The Royals had the 4th overall pick that year. And they selected Asa Lacy, a pitcher out of Texas A&M, who, as far as I can tell, is not even in baseball anymore.
He busted out.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh.
He was supposed to be a front-end starter. Didn't work out.
He was released, actually, finally, this past April, having not made an appearance during the season. His favorite player growing up, according to his Wikipedia, was Clayton Kershaw. If only he could have been Clayton Kershaw for the Royals. That didn't happen.
Number 6.
Lastly, in the 6 at 6, Argentina's national team left Kansas City for the semifinal. Of course, you've got 2 Kansas City area teams who are in the World Cup semifinals. You've got one game happening today, that is France and Spain. And then tomorrow, you've got our 2 teams, England and Argentina. They're playing in Atlanta at 2 o'clock on Fox. So there you go. That is your 6 at 6. Coming up, Governor Mike Kehoe of the state of Missouri is going to join us. He was on Fox News yesterday. Some big arrests happening in Kansas City over the weekend. The details with the governor coming up next on KCMO. So over the weekend, there was a multi-agency crackdown, and it was in the final days of the World Cup. You had HSI, FBI, and local police rescue 8 missing children and identify 9 trafficking victims in the process as well. Mike Kehoe is here on KCMO, the governor of Missouri, and he is joining us on 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. All right, Governor, good morning. The details, what happened late last week, what can you share with us?
Well, good morning, Pete. It's always great to be on with you. Unfortunately, bad people take advantage of a great celebratory event like World Cup and try to create harm. Our interagency efforts, along with FBI, DHS, Missouri Highway Patrol, U.S. Marshals, and, of course, our great friends at Kansas City Police Department, worked together to take 5 is the last number I saw, bad guys off the street, all here, Pete, illegally from Mexico and Guatemala, by the way, to save 8 children who were being used in potential sex trafficking schemes. So it was an interagency process to work together. It was a plan for them to literally have a plan, a sting, if you will, in place to catch these guys. And we've got some of the worst off the street. And more importantly, I think we saved the lives, certainly in the future, of 8 minors.
So was this tied to the La Fontanella Foods and the arrest that happened there on Thursday?
No, I don't have any details on those being tied together, but certainly that's something that we, obviously want to keep our eye on. And we're proud that we're able to work together with the other agencies, both federal, state, and local, to bring some of these people out of society and back to where they came from.
So were these individuals, were they here specifically to be trafficked during and throughout the World Cup, or did it just so happen that the arrest took place during the World Cup?
Yeah, there's some details that we're not allowed to talk about just yet, but we believe that the international activity associated around World Cup probably brought them out a little bit more in the open for these agencies to move in on. And so I think more details as we're able to will come out on that as that goes forward.
When you look back on these last few weeks, of course, the final game was played here in Kansas City on Saturday night. What grade, rating, however you want to rate this thing, what would you give Kansas City and how it held up on the world stage?
Well, Kansas City did great. You're seeing national news outlets giving Kansas City the best grade of all the U.S. cities. I heard that from international visitors. I've talked to ambassadors from most of the countries, the king and queen of the Netherlands, various people who came in for the games. They were all incredibly impressed with what Kansas City did. My thanks goes out to, again, a great law enforcement effort led by KCPD, and they did a wonderful job. Highway Patrol, National Guard, all of the agencies that work together surrounding police and fire departments to keep people safe, but also have a good time. And the international community, Kansas City and the volunteers did a great job. And, there were thousands of volunteers of welcoming international visitors and really doing what we wanted to do. We wanted to show the world what Kansas City was all about. I think it was very successful in doing that. And we believe there'll be lots and lots and lots of, follow-up things that will happen from this event, whether it's economic development, additional tourism, et cetera. I'm very proud of what Kansas City, Missouri did for this tournament.
Yeah, how do you quantify what ultimately ends up being a long-term win in the wake of what happened here over the last few weeks?
Yeah, well, the short term is the economic activity that we saw, all over the communities, whether it was watch parties, hotels, restaurants, et cetera. They were all reporting very good sales and results. So we'll get the exact detail on that. But that's the short time. The long-term effort for us as a state, for me personally, we use the games to work with companies from around the world who are looking to have a U.S. presence, and then demonstrated what Missouri was all about, what we could do, what we thought their future could look like here. We use it literally as a recruiting tool. So we think long-term for me and economic efforts, I think that will be a good payoff. But also, I know that the Kansas City Sports Commission and others, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Kathy Nelson and her team specifically, are looking at other opportunities, whether that's Rugby World Cup, Women's World Cup, various athletic events that could come to Kansas City. I mean, look, between the NFL draft and now the FIFA World Cup, we've shown the world that we know how to host people and put on a good time and let everybody enjoy whatever the sport is that they're following. And I think for long term for Kansas City, that's a great place to be in.
Governor Mike Kehoe is joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio. So, by the way, Governor, I mean, obviously that whole part of town, World War I Union Station, was rocking the last few weeks with Fan Fest and whatnot. The Royals are going to be down there, of course. Have you been following this story as it relates to potentially having to put the Royals on the ballot in Kansas City? And is that changing anything for you from a state perspective and what may be next with this process?
No, I mean, the tools that we've put in front of them, I spent a lot of time with the Royals ownership and management over the last several weeks as I've been in and out of Kansas City. I think they all believe that we're in a good place, Mayor Lucas and others, to move forward with the initial offer that we made, which was a good deal, as I've always said, for the citizens of Missouri, and not a highly leveraged deal like we saw maybe Kansas was offering in some packages. So I think we're in a good spot. But, Pete, anytime you have a major, project like this, there's always going to be, some peaks and valleys. I've also talked to the Hall family. They're very excited. What a lot of people missed in that announcement of the stadium is, Hallmark Cards building a new headquarters, staying down in that location. I mean, that's a significant piece of non-sports related economic activity that we should all be proud of and thankful that the Hall family is committing to.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think that people are excited. The question now becomes, though, if this petition group did get the votes that they needed, and that thing is legally required by the city of Kansas City to go to a vote of the people, does that slow up anything from your perspective? And should the city just go ahead and put it on the ballot and be done with it and see what happens?
Well, I'll let the mayor and the city council make that decision. Certainly it's something you want to keep an eye on and watch what's happening, but they believe they are within the boundaries of what the charter allows them to do, and I think that speaks for itself.
What about, I don't know if we're going to speak before the big primaries coming up here in a couple of weeks. Are you going to be doing any endorsements in that 6th district or that 5th district here, which obviously includes much of our listening area?
We haven't endorsed in the 5th district. Rick Bratton, I think, is going to be a great congressman. There's several good candidates in that, by the way, so it's not something I take lightly. But I've known Rick for a long time. He served in the Senate. I've worked very closely with him on major issues. I think he'll represent the new 5th very well. In the 6th district, there is some great folks in there. You and I both know them. And I know Chris and I know Nathan very well. Either one of them would do a great job in Congress, and I know that they're gonna work their tails off to the end.
All right. How about the elimination of the income tax? Of course, that's going to be voted on here as well in the next couple of weeks. You're obviously a proponent of it, getting that thing on the ballot. What is your schedule look like around the state of Missouri? Will you be the face of this over the next 3 weeks or so?
Well, multiple people were. I was on a teletown hall with hundreds and hundreds of people last night at 7 p.m. Trying to walk through the real facts around that. Again, we campaigned on this. So we got elected by the people of Missouri because we said one of our plans to grow our economy and grow our population was to eliminate the income tax. I think it took us a year to put that plan together with the input of a lot of stakeholders. I think it's now that the legislature has passed it last session and it's on the ballot as appropriate. It's a major policy change. It's the biggest one we've seen in Missouri in most people would argue decades, maybe even a century. So it's appropriate for Missourians to vote on that. I think that we need to make sure we get the facts out there. Look, we know one thing. If we do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got, which is kind of stagnant population, just mediocre economic growth. If we look at our competition, that's where we keep an eye on what they're doing. In other states, specifically like Tennessee and many others who don't have income tax, their population is growing, their economy is growing. We need our population and our economy to grow to continue to provide opportunity for Missourians, and this is a plan that we believe can do that. So, yes, we will be talking about it, trying to get the misinformation out there, the scare tactics that you're seeing a lot of the opposition use. And we'll try to make sure Missourians know we think it's at the end of the day, it's their choice, but we think this takes us to a brighter future.
What's the biggest piece of misinformation you've seen out there on eliminating the state income tax in Missouri?
There's the scare tactics specifically for seniors. There's pretty much a new low. We don't have sales tax on food, which is what seniors and low income people buy the most. We won't have any income tax on any healthcare items, so prescriptions. We won't have any income tax changes on real estate, so rent, et cetera. So the things that those folks are most interested in won't be affected. And then some seniors who are successful in selling real estate or having some transactions in real estate, there won't be any impact on that. The seniors I talk to, when you talk to them long enough, if you remind them, this isn't about really me or my wife. It's really about the next generation. It's about their grandkids and their kids of their grandkids. This is a decision that affects folks for 20, 30, 50 years. And so we get a lot of people caught up into, well, how will this affect me next week, which is good. You have to look at that. But let's look at the long-term projection of what a policy change could do like this. And again, you've seen states who have been able to do this, and it over the period of years, their economic and population growth is fantastic. And when you tell seniors your grandkids will have opportunities to stay here in the state and be with you, we can provide additional opportunities. They very much like and know that that's a good thing.
And last thing, so people know, if it passes, it doesn't just magically go to zero. It gets phased out. And it gets phased out, is it by years, or is it, remind me, by making sure revenue or budget, targets hit their goals?
Yes, well, it's in the constitutional measure that they'll vote on. So we can't, we will not be defunding services. So people say we defund public safety or education. You know me, we're never defunding public safety. So you have to change the sales tax code, which is over 100 years old. Most states around us have changed theirs in the last 30 or 40 years. We haven't changed ours in 115 years, I think. You modify the sales tax code so that those revenues come in, then you ratchet down the income tax. So, yes, it would take a period. We call it a phase out. It would take, we believe, 4 to 6 years. And one thing has to happen first before the other thing happens, and that is in the constitutional measure. And the one thing that has to happen first is revenues have to come in, then taxes get cut. Revenues come in, taxes get cut. So over a period of those 4 or 5, 6 years, you have a different sales tax code and you have zero income tax.
Got it. Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe, a lot to talk about here this morning on KCMO. We always appreciate your time, Governor. Thank you for joining us in Kansas City, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.
It's always a pleasure, Pete. And thanks again to the people in Kansas City, volunteers, first responders, everybody who did an incredible job of welcoming visitors at the World Cup. I'm super proud of them. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. No doubt about it. That is the governor of Missouri, Mike Kehoe, on KCMO Talk Radio. We've got tickets to see Jason Aldean in 1 hour at Morton Amphitheater. We've got Tirade Tuesday at 8:30 and much more here on KCMO. All right, if you're finally looking around the house, maybe you had people over the weekend and you're like, I need the new siding. It's time to get the windows done. Or just maybe the kitchen. CMP Construction in Kansas City does it all. All right, and they do it, and they've done it for 25 years as a family-owned Kansas City company run by Chris and Teresa, who are longtime KCMO Talk Radio listeners, by building trust one room at a time. They have customers that continue to come back. They'll do a bathroom for them, a kitchen, then before you know it, a full home remodel, whatever they want. CMP Construction is not a big corporate remodeler here in Kansas City, and they're offering KCMO Talk Radio listeners free estimates. That's not something that they typically do, but they're doing it for this audience. So whatever it is, they can install Anderson windows, they can redo the siding, and now's the time to make the call on that, because you might think, oh, it's summertime. Yeah, but there's like a several-week lead time on those projects. So get in the call right now. See their amazing work at cmpremodel.com. That's cmpremodel.com, and start the conversation with Chris and Teresa today.
Vince Colonnese here. Join me for your lunch hour from 11 to 2 on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
So I guess show was great last night, according to some of you on the text line who have reached out. You won your Mellencamp tickets from us here on KCMO. Played at Morton Amphitheater. And I know that Keatsman was telling me off the air yesterday that he was on the fence. He loves Mellencamp, but what he said resulted in him deciding not to go is that Mellencamp is putting on a good show. There was a big review in the Chicago Sun-Times he showed me yesterday. He's playing the hits. He's doing a good show, which he hasn't, I guess, always traditionally done live. John's got some horror stories. Kevin's got some horror stories. But apparently this tour started off pretty well with just playing the hits, doing his thing, and having a blast. But there was one thing here in the Chicago Sun-Times that Kevin shared with me, that he did change a line in one of his songs to take a shot at the police and at ICE. Now, a couple of you have texted in this morning. No one's made a complaint about that. I got one text here that just came in. Pete, great seats last night. Morton Amphitheater is awesome. Parking could use some improvements. It was vintage Mellencamp. Thank you for the tickets. Well, thank yourself. You called in. John Anthony got you hooked up with those tickets, of course, a few weeks back. But no one's complained yet about any politics being involved in the show. And I don't know if it's because he just changed a couple of lines on some songs and no one noticed. Maybe you were taking a bathroom break when he did it. Maybe he wasn't doing preachy stuff like Springsteen does. I don't know. But there's been no negative reaction to Mellencamp last night at Morton Amphitheater, John, which I'm somewhat surprised by.
That's good. I'm glad, He had kind of stopped caring, and so did I. So, But, when you get to that age as a rock star, if you want to go down to a small theater and sit there and smoke cigars and play whatever songs you want, I think you've earned that right.
Yeah.
And I think it's silly of fans who aren't prepared for those types of shows to go and complain.
I would agree.
So,
I would agree.
If he's back making some money, good for him. I don't care. I got the records.
Yeah.
And I do have the records.
Yes. Well, it's funny, too. I saw Mick Jagger did an interview recently, and he was asked, hey, why don't you get political like Springsteen and Mellencamp? And he was
There
like,
you go.
well, because, I view myself as like an athlete. People are here to escape. They're not here to be preached to. I like that approach from Mick Jagger.
I was telling Mark about that clip. I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah. And, I think about Springsteen, and I love Springsteen. I can't go to this tour. It's not coming to Kansas City anyway, so I'm not enticed to go. I couldn't do it, man. I'm not paying that kind of money to be preached to by a musician who's now worth $1 billion after selling his catalog for $500 million. I just think that, why would I subject myself to that? But no complaints thus far on Mellencamp, but I need to know whether or not there were issues getting out of the parking lot, because I've heard that's been a mess so far at Morton Amphitheater. I'm going to Stapleton coming up in October, so I need the read on that. What I got to give you the read on coming up here is how the Democrats may be fleecing the Republicans in the Kansas gubernatorial race next.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
This is one of those days where I feel like the Kansas Democrats are playing chess and the Kansas Republicans are playing checkers. And they're playing checkers like I played checkers with like my 7-year-old. Like they're really just kind of grinding along, trying to get a feel for the game. And then meantime, down the hallway, they're playing 3D chess. So there's a bunch of things at play right now. First off, when it comes to what the Kansas Democrat strategy is, it does seem like regardless of what happens in their primary for governor, and they've got 3 Johnson County people running, right? They have Cindy Holscher. They have Ethan Corson, also known as Ned Schneebly from School of Rock. Mark's pumped up. He always loves the reference. He can't help himself. Neither can I. And then you've also got the mayor of Overland Park, Kurt Skoog. And, you know, for a long time, we've never really seen the Democrats have a very robust primary in Kansas for anything. They get behind their horse. They back their horse. They don't spend a lot of money in the primary. And that sets them up well for a general, as it has over the last 25 years in governor's races. Well, what if this strategy, as much as we talk about, hey, Democrats have a primary in Kansas. Wow, look at that. What if the strategy here is more so about something else on the ballot? And that is the vote no side of electing Supreme Court judges. It's something that we've talked about on and off for the last couple of weeks. I did a segment on it last week. I broke it out exclusively into its own segment on the podcast. That's way people could hear it. They could share it. You know, I can't spend, I know some of you are wanting me to spend a lot more time on electing judges. I'm sorry. It's not the sexiest radio topic of all time. All right. I have not heard or seen a lot of ads suggesting why people should vote yes. I've gotten like one mailer from, I think, AFP, but I'm not sitting here carrying the water or doing the heavy lifting by spending multiple segments on electing judges. I'm not. If I wanted to kill my ratings, I would do that. I will bring it up once in a while when I figure out how to tie it into something bigger, but I can't spend all day talking about judges' elections. That being said, the bigger picture here is this. Democrats have a robust primary for governor. And one of the reasons I believe they have it is because they want to get people out to vote no on this ballot issue about electing Supreme Court judges. They don't want to elect Supreme Court judges. They prefer the current model where basically the attorneys give a handful of options to the governor, and then the governor picks one of those options. Now, one of the problems for conservatives is that you haven't had conservative governors on and off over the last 25 years. In fact, you've had more Democrats than you've had Republicans as the governor of Kansas this century. That's been a big problem as well. I'm not saying that solves everything, but the underlying issue here is that the Kansas GOP can't win governor's races. So I'm going to vote yes on this ballot issue. But I also sit here and say to myself, I'll vote yes because I think it's the right thing to do. But considering, Republicans are like, we've got to be able to vote for our Supreme Court judges. We can't even get our people to vote for municipal elections and school boards. I mean, we're getting steamrolled on school board elections, on mayor's races, on city council races, all across, especially Johnson County, but other parts of the state as well. And now you guys are like, yeah, we're going to elect our Supreme Court judges. And is there going to be some big push to make sure we know who to elect and who to vote for? Because no one's done that work locally as far as I can tell. People don't know their local city councilmen. And now suddenly they're going to be wildly engaged on some guy in a robe that they couldn't pick out of a lineup. I mean, there is a lot of wishful thinking going on here. Now, I know that these folks right now on the Kansas Supreme Court undoubtedly lean left. I got, some information from some folks yesterday showing that the folks that are currently on the Kansas Supreme Court, 80% of their personal donations have gone to Democrats, 20% have gone to Republicans. Okay, so yeah, that's another compelling reason to go out there and vote yes. They've got a reason to do that. But Democrats also have this robust primary, I think in part trying to drive out turnout as it relates to this vote no side. At the very least, they, yes, have a tough primary on their hands, but they also know they've got to go out there and they've got to vote no. That's just as important to them, I believe, as anything else this election cycle. So that's part one of this. The other thing I find intriguing, and I heard some of this, I've heard some rumblings on this over the last couple of weeks. People in the Kansas City area in particular are not thrilled and a little frustrated with the fact that they don't feel like Ty Masterson's campaign is spending enough time up here in the Kansas City area. Now, I did go back and check his social media. Not that everything he does is on social media. I know we're supposed to post what we eat for lunch every day on social media. He doesn't do that. But Ty's seems like a pretty fit guy. I'm sure he eats healthy. But anyway, he was in Wyandotte County about a week ago. So he was talking to their folks up in Wyandotte in the last week or so. But listen, the bulk of his time has been spent, it seems like, in North Central Kansas, South Central Kansas. Obviously, that's his bread and butter area as an Andover guy outside of Wichita. So you would expect that, right? But some people said to me, they said, hey, Pete, he did say, and by the way, these are not people who are like, in the camp of somebody else, all right? They just want to see the party do well. So there's nothing personal here at all from these people who are talking to me about this. But they said, listen, Pete, we know he said on your show a few weeks back, got to win back Johnson County. Got to make sure Johnson County, at the very least, comes back to the middle a little bit. And we've got to make that happen as a county party. We got to make that happen as a state party. And that was music to my ears. Well, if that's true, it would seem like part of that plan would be to win over some Johnson County voters in the primary as well. Unless the thought process is, hey, there's a lot of people in this race from Johnson County, right? A lot of people. You've got Sarnicki, you've got Schwab, you've got O'Hara. You have people who have deep Johnson County ties who are maybe going to split up the vote. And if you're Ty Masterson, maybe you can run things up in other parts of the state where you're more well-known and where you're not a Johnson County person and you may stand out. That may be part of the plan. But remember this, by far the most votes in this primary come out of Johnson County. I went back to 2018 just out of curiosity because we didn't really have a primary in 22. It was just handed over to Derek Schmidt, which in hindsight may have not been the best idea. But you had in 2018, 70,000 votes come out of Johnson County in the primary. Compare that to Sedgwick County, where it was 42,000. And that was 8 years ago. Johnson County's only grown, right, in the last 8 years. So you've got an enormous number of votes here. And giving those up, even if you think your opponents are just going to divvy them up, giving them up doesn't really seem like the greatest idea or the greatest strategy to me. Because I also think you want to win some of these people over. Some of the people that might be a little not in love with the Chiefs deal. Folks like that who may want to say, hey, give me the goods. Tell me your side of it. Let's talk about this thing. Let's talk about other parts of your resume, which is extensive for Senator Masterson. So I know that complaint is coming to me. So I'm sharing it with you here on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957. That's the text line and the studio line right here on KCMO. On the text line, Pete, I'm originally from another state where we have elected Supreme Court justices. I'm amazed it has become a partisan election issue. Is that you saying that you're a fan of it or you're not a fan of it? Because I can't tell based on that text alone. But I'm trying to read through some of these texts. Pete, there's a lot of ads that I'm getting on YouTube to vote yes on judges. Okay. I mean, I guess they are thinking that this audience will just vote yes. I'm not convinced that's the case at all. I mean, as far as I can tell, I think there's a lot more people split on this than I think those on the inside realize. And by the way, what do people do when they don't know the answer to a question and they go to the polls? They vote no, right? That's what they do. If they don't know the question they're being asked, they lean no. That's always how it works. 745 913 795.7. We've got Jason Aldean tickets to go see him at Morton Amphitheater coming up later this month. That is at 8:15 this morning on KCMO Talk Radio. We'll get to your calls coming up as well here on the show. And Tirade Tuesday, whatever you want to rant on, that is at 8:30 this morning. Don't miss it on KCMO Talk Radio.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, President Trump's Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, will join the show, as will Eli Lake, coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
Oh, that's hilarious. Nice job on the text line. This came in. I missed it and just saw it during the break. Pete, 30 seconds into your conversation about electing Supreme Court justices, I flipped the radio station. Oh, come on. That's what I'm saying, though. I'm sorry. I can't do the heavy lifting. I can't do it, all right? I mean, I got to know what makes an audience tick, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not at all. No one's ever done a perfect 4-hour radio show. Heck, a 2-hour radio show. Keatsman's done a perfect 1-hour radio show, but no one's ever done a perfect multi-hour radio show. I can't. I'm not talking about electing judges for hours upon hours upon hours between now and August 4th. I'm not doing it. I would bore myself to death. Never mind the audience. Jeez, I respect the guy in the text line for calling it like it is.
Show some RESPICT.
So, geez, you want to get in front of the audience. Come on. All right, John Mellencamp was in town last night. Did the show up at Morton Amphitheater. We gave away tickets to that a few weeks ago, I think it was. We got Jason Aldean coming up in 25 minutes. Chris and Lee Summit. What's up, Chris? How was it last night?
Morning, Pete. First of all, it was a great show. Thanks for the tickets. I'll echo the texters. I think we sat right next to them, the guys from Independence. They were great. It was a great venue, very nice facility. One word summarizes the parking: cluster. You have 16,000, I think it's seats, and the parking was like, I don't know, for 2,000 people. It reminded me of going to a Chiefs game, and you got 80,000 people all rushing to the exits. But we sat there for 20 minutes probably in our car, and a lot of people just like, well, we know this is going to be bad, so we'll just sit in our car. We won't even get in the line and fire up the car. But it was an outrage of frustration trying to get out of there. The show, if I can do a quick review real quick, he did a great show. He can't quite hit all the notes like he's 74, but and he looks probably like your dad or maybe your grandpa. He's aged dramatically because I followed him for about the last 30 years, and I didn't even recognize him on the Jumbotron. When they got a little close-up of him, I was like, wow, is that John Mellencamp? But his band is outstanding, but the parking was, wow. Like you said, they got to figure it out.
That
has
been
show they've done.
The major complaint. Getting out of there is a disaster. Absolute
disaster.
And that concerns me. I'll be at the Stapleton show in October. Someone texted in. They said, Pete, I was there being the old guy that I am. I left before the show ended. I could hear Cherry Bomb loud and clear in the parking lot, but I got out of there without any problem. But here's the thing. You're paying a lot of money. I mean, you're not because you won the tickets, but people are paying a lot of money for these shows. And the idea that you got to leave early to try to get home at a reasonable hour, I don't know how they have all these top flight engineers to develop these places, and they can't figure out how to get people out in an easy fashion. I don't understand it for the life of me, Chris.
Absolutely. So, I mean, but as far as, when you go to the show, it's a great venue. It's all covered. So if you're going there when it rains or, it faces the west and you're like, the sun's in my eyes. No, it's probably 50 feet at the top of the stage. So you're well under all the shade. So
anything political?
Yeah, he did go down that road a couple times. My wife and I, as we listened to you, we're good conservatives. We looked at each other like, we got Springsteen here or what's going on?
Yeah. Were people booing him, or was it just like, all right, get on with the show?
It was kind of the latter. It's like, come on. It was quick and dirty. He did a couple little snide comments and like, come on, let's go. Just start the next song.
All right. Your favorite song last night was what?
Probably Scarecrow, or, where he talks about the farms. Yeah. Rain on the Scarecrow, I think.
Rain on the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, very nice. Well, hey, Chris, I'm glad you had a good time. Thanks for the review.
Yeah, thanks for the tickets.
You bet, man. See you later.
It's always such a treat to get lectured to from people who deed their way through social studies if they were even in high school that day.
I know.
Right?
I know. And, it's funny he brings up Mellencamp and how he just looked old. When Springsteen was here in 2022, he played down at T-Mobile. And I hadn't seen him since 2016 when he was doing the big stadium tours. And at that point, Springsteen was probably, I think he's 76 now. 77? So he was probably 72-ish at that point. And I hadn't seen him since he was, at least in person, I hadn't seen him since he was probably 65, 66. And listen, he's in amazing shape and amazing health. And he's thin, which obviously, you want to be thin if you want to live a healthier life into your 70s and 80s. How many people end up in their 80s being fat? They're usually dead by then, right? So he looked healthy, but at the same time, he looked old. And I was like, whoa, he aged a lot from 65 to 72 when you hadn't seen him in a few years. But he was healthy and sounded good, but there was something just visually where I was like, oh my gosh, he got old. What, 72 is kind of old? Oh, geez, okay, all right. So it sounds like that's what Chris was saying with Mellencamp last night as well. But you know what, the egress getting out of that Morton Amphitheater has been the biggest complaint I've heard. And it reminds me of the airport. Listen, I love the new airport. I have been a proponent of the new airport since I got here, since that was a controversy going back 8-9 years now. I've always said that Kansas City needed a new airport. Even though some of you like the old one, it needed a better front door. The one thing I can't stand about the airport is how they didn't have the crosswalk that comes out of the airport and goes to the parking garage, how they didn't have that be a raised walkway. I don't understand that. So what you get then is you have to pay people to basically play traffic cop. And when you get busier times of day picking up and dropping off, more so picking up, it's kind of a mess. And I'm like, this was a multi-billion-dollar operation. You had the best engineers theoretically in the country working on this. And no one thought that the crosswalk through the pickup lanes was a bad idea.
Oh, one of those beautiful Arrowhead Stadium things from back in the day. Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, sometimes these guys and gals are too smart for their own good. They just need someone like John or I to go in there and look at the plans and be like, all right, listen, you guys know all the details, but this one idea is really stupid and not practical. And it's the same thing, I'm sure, getting out of Morton Amphitheater. I mean, the thing was hundreds of millions of dollars, and no one thought how to get people out of here in an efficient manner. I'm blown away by how they seem to sometimes fail at the little obvious things that matter a lot to regular people.
Kind of runs in the neighborhood along there, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, down to the Current, it's like, parking.
Yeah.
For the new Current Stadium. And
yeah.
We've got the thing down there in the Ozarks where it's one way in, one way out, that amphitheater. It's like, help.
Yeah, I have not been down there either. But it's just like, guys, you got to figure that part out. You have to do it. Coming up, something that seemed to bother me, but nobody else next. Oh, no. I've got South Carolina in my mentions here in the last 30 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio. I don't know who this guy is, but his name is Ken Shepard. I guess he's done some stuff with Fox News and the Washington Times. He's called me out as not being a South Carolinian. He tells me I don't get it. That's fine. I don't get it. But I don't think it has anything to do with me not being a South Carolinian. So yesterday I threw this out there. I don't know. I was just not in love with the idea that Lindsey Graham, after he dies, is now going to be replaced by his sister. Here was the announcement from Henry McMaster, the governor of South Carolina.
It's my honor to ask his little sister, Darlene Graham, to finish his work for him now. And by the way, Darlene, I don't know if I told you, but after we spoke on the phone in the wee hours of Sunday morning, and you agreed to serve through tears, earlier, I had wondered what you would say, and I was humbled by your quickness to see the duty that you had to serve. And I called the president afterwards, and he thought it was a great idea, and I'm sure that everyone here does as well. Darlene, little sister, come forward, please.
So the governor, he kind of gave it away. He's like, I talked to you, Darlene Graham Nordone, the sister of Lindsey Graham, and they have a really, it's a touching backstory. Lindsey adopts his sister when he's 23 and she's 13 because both their parents died at different times, but they were both dead by the time Lindsey's 23 and she's 13. He adopts her. They didn't come from much. Parents are bar owners. Roger Marshall talked about that yesterday here on the show. He was good friends with Senator Graham. But he's basically saying, I talked to you hours after we find out your brother dies, and I ask you right there on the spot to replace him in the U.S. Senate. Now, it's temporary. We know that, right? It's not a permanent deal. They wanted someone in there who was not going to maybe seek that seat. I can accept that, and I'm cool with that. But as Republicans who believe in the idea of a meritocracy and, picking yourself up by your bootstraps and getting to where you want to be based on your talents and your abilities, not your last name, not through nepotism, to say to Lindsey Graham's sister, hey, do you want the seat? It's nothing against her personally. I don't have an opinion on her. I just don't like the idea. And ask yourself this, okay? Because, a lot of people, I'm surprised how many people are completely in disagreement on this. They're like, well, it's good to have her there, and we don't want someone who's going to run for the full term, and a caretaker is just fine. And, okay, great, I guess. You're telling me that nobody else in the state could have met those potential obligations as not wanting to run for the seat, looking to be a caretaker, looking to honor the people of West Virginia. It had to be the sibling. That's the part that bothers me. And then Darlene Graham Nordone accepted the selection and said this yesterday.
Next, I want to thank the governor for selecting me to serve the remainder of Lindsey's term. It is such an honor. Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him. My brother was the most amazing person, outstanding leader, and just a genuinely good man.
Maybe I'm nitpicking on a Tuesday. I'm having a great morning, but maybe I'm nitpicking on this. But you're not there for Lindsey. You're there for the people of South Carolina. The way this is being handled is like something out of, the English monarchy. Well, the sister's going to get it, and she's going to look out for her late brother. No. And the fact that Trump got behind all this, when the whole reason Donald Trump is in the White House in the first place going back to 2016 is because people were sick of the same old names. They were sick of the Bushes, and they were sick of the Clintons, and they were sick of the perceived establishment. And they were sick of the favoritism and the insider trading, and the drain the swamp mentality was in full force. And now we put the sister of the guy who, yeah, he came around on Trump, obviously, and he was a Trump ally. And, that was much to the chagrin of some people in the United States Senate, but neither here nor there. Now we put the guy's sister in there, and the governor's admitting that basically the only call he made on Lindsey Graham's replacement was to his sister? Goodness gracious, nothing about that I like. And in Missouri, I know that this happened when Mel Carnahan died, and we put in Gene. And that was, before my time here in Kansas City, but I didn't really care for that either. I just don't like the idea of saying, well, here you go, husband, wife, brother, sister. I think the founding fathers would be rolling around in their graves at this idea of just handing political power over to people who, frankly, have not done anything to earn it outside of having the right bloodline. And as we celebrate America 250, isn't that what we fought against in many respects? The text line is 913-408-7957. Is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. Pete, you're nitpicking. The woman lost her brother unexpectedly 2 days earlier. What's that have to do with it? How many of you have lost loved ones? Do you expect anybody to hand you a United States Senate seat? Like, I can't comprehend the line of thinking. If nothing else, that may be another reason to not hand the person a U.S. Senate seat while they're going through this kind of a grieving process.
We went through famous political siblings, Jimmy Carter and Billy Carter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you would know that one. Also, Roger Clinton, that might have been a little more familiar with you, Bill Clinton.
Yep.
These were kind of the opposites of their brothers, if you will, in family legacy.
Well, what if Hunter Biden was handed something?
There you go.
Okay.
Along those lines. Although that one may take the cake. He may be at the top of the pyramid for sure. The other guys were older.
Seriously.
And knew what they were doing. But
if Hunter Biden got anything, let's just say something happened.
Hey, Kamala, no, we'll just go ahead and put Hunter in instead of Joe.
Yeah, and maybe he can find his bag of Coke that got left in the White House while he's at it, We don't know if it was his. It was somebody's. But I do not get this one at all. I really don't. Okay? I don't. 913-408-7957 is how you join us here on KCMO Talk Radio. Last night, Jack Caglione, he had some monster shots in the home run derby. So he made the Royals proud from that perspective. He beat the Yankees guy. Who was the Yankees guy last night, Mark, in the home run derby?
Ben Rice. He's been pretty solid first half of the season.
Okay. So he beat the Yankees guy. We're glad about that. He did not get beyond the first round, but the best part was his dad, Jeff, was throwing him his meatballs last night. But I did see some Royals fans complaining because I guess he was throwing too much heat to his kid, which I respect, all right? I have great respect. He's throwing some heat to his son at the home run derby, and, he's the old guy who's got the rubber band arm, and he's just got to make it work.
I think hindsight's 20/20. Maybe they were hurrying it a little bit. I would suggest they could have taken a break, and since Jack's new to the whole thing, maybe if he just stepped out of the box, slowed the old man down just a little, he might have been able to meet a few more. But, man, he nailed a couple of them.
He did.
Sure.
He did. I saw the highlights. I decided not to resubscribe to Netflix. I'm annoyed with them.
That YouTube highlight, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll check it out. I saw some of them early this morning, but I'm exhausted with some of the woke kids programming on Netflix, so we don't have it. And got home from the final softball clinic that my middle daughter did last night, and after picking up some Dairy Queen, and she was on cloud 9 last night. Gave her a little certificate. I know some of you are going to be like, participation trophy. No, it's fine. Okay, that's not the reason. that a kid's going to be entitled because they got a certificate at 5 years old over a softball clinic. I promise you it's going to be okay, all right? But she was on cloud nine, got home, had a little ice cream, and then I'm like, everyone's got to go to bed. I'm not going to spend the money for Netflix right now. I don't need it. Principally, I don't want it. So I'll just watch the highlights. So congratulations. I know he didn't win, but I thought Jack Caglione performed well for the Royals overall.
And if he would have had 10 home runs, if he would have had 2 more, he actually would have advanced because he hit the further home run than Schwarber.
So that was the tiebreaker.
Yep.
How far you hit the home run.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a compilation of all your home runs combined. It was just the longest home run.
Longest home run.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get him next year, Jack. There's always next year. Just like for the Royals on the field, there's always 2027. Well, coming up, we're going to talk to Melissa Johnson. She is the Jackson County prosecutor. There's just a lot to get to, a lot of issues right here in Jackson County coming out of the World Cup that she's been handling. Also an update on downtown days at Elise Summit, some of the arrests made there. So we'll start there with Melissa Johnson coming up on KCMO. But right now, your chance to win tickets to see Jason Aldean, Morton Amphitheater. That show's coming up on July 25th. That is next Saturday. 7th caller right now, 913-408-7957. All right, speaking of deals, if you can't win the Jason Aldean tickets, you know what you can win? Great deals at Hy-Vee. All right, become a Perks Plus member, which is what I am, and they'll deliver to your house for free. You can get express pickup on your groceries, let Hy-Vee do the shopping for you, and even get deals on your gas prices. We all need that right now, only at Hy-Vee.
I'm chilling on a dirt road, laid back swirling like I'm George.
All right, John, who won the Aldine tickets here?
Brian West in Kearney. Excited, ready to go to the show coming up on the 25th.
All right, that's next Saturday. Next chance to win with Keatsman at 10:45 right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Very cool. Melissa Johnson, Jackson County prosecutor, joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Always appreciate her time. And I wanted to start here. I saw this update from the Lee Summit, Missouri Police Department yesterday, and it was an update on downtown days. And listen, the reality is that because juveniles are involved, this is going to be handled by Jackson County Family Court. So it's not handled necessarily by the Jackson County prosecutor herself, but she's joining us on KCMO. I wanted to talk big picture with her on this. Melissa, thank you for being here. Listen, we've talked about issues involving juveniles in Jackson County and how you pick and choose when maybe you charge somebody as an adult. I'm not saying this Lee Summit Downtown Day story rises to that level, but how are you continuing to balance when or if to take juveniles and charge them as adults in certain cases?
Well, good morning to you as well, Pete. It's always a pleasure to be on. And, as the law currently stands, I evaluate a number of factors. Of course, the particular juvenile's criminal history, if they have had a robust number of referrals before the current incident at bar, I definitely put a lot of weight on that because clearly the efforts to support and uphold accountability previously had not been successful. I also look at the severity of the offense. The alleged conduct that occurred at Downtown Days was certainly not acceptable, but does it really rise to the level of ensuring that a young person's life is derailed by sticking them with a pretty serious felony? And I also look at kind of their background. Do they have adequate familial support? Have they been offered services before? And that is how the law currently stands. Now, as of August, thanks to our state legislature, my office will be able to play a more integral role in deciding which juveniles are and are not certified as an adult after August commences. And so I'm looking forward to those changes as well.
So does that take the power away from who then? The judges, and gives it to you in your office?
No, it still lies squarely with the judges to make the certification decision. However, I will have more unilateral authority to proceed and seek certification absent of the juvenile office's participation. Now, I do want to be very clear. I have the utmost confidence in Monica Penrose, our juvenile officer, but due to these law changes, our office will be able to take a more active role in those decisions and presenting them before the judge so that they can make the ultimate decision.
Okay. All right. Melissa Johnson's here on KCMO. Couple of the things, we just got done with the World Cup. It seems like overall, a lot of success. Law enforcement was out in full force. For you, I know that like KCUR had a story saying that there were some more ICE arrests that happened over the last few weeks. I know that's not your jurisdiction, but is that something that the feds have brought you into, gotten you or your department involved with, or is that something that always is just going to get handled by the feds regardless of county and jurisdiction?
No, we had no involvement with any robust ICE participation during the World Cup. That was squarely out of my purview. But what was on my desk is the fact that we received significantly less referrals from law enforcement during the period of June 9th through July 13th, which was kind of at the pinnacle of our World Cup activity here locally. We received 420 cases compared to 536 during that same time frame last year, which indicates that crime was down, which was a little surprising for us. I know we were all on pins and needles thinking that the influx of people would result in an influx of crime, but that is not what we saw. And even with that decreased number of referrals, our charging rate went up. We charged 72% of all of those cases that we received. And namely, I want to focus on the fact that we filed 94% of all weapons offense cases submitted to us during that time period. So crime-wise, we fared pretty well here in Kansas City.
The Oscar Sanchez Munoz case, that's the guy a couple of weeks ago who was, shooting people on I-70 right before that first Argentina game. I heard a lot about the breakdown, not with your office, but between area departments during that time. World Cup's here. People are trying to kind of get their bearings under them. This guy goes from one side of the state line to the other. He's considered a threat. Departments were trying to kind of navigate all that. As someone who was sitting obviously in that prosecutor's chair, that case in particular, then of course it takes them a week to find the guy in the place they thought he was in the first place anyway. How do you view that case and how it was handled and whether or not things could have been done better or differently?
Listen, the criminal justice system is a system, which means that each factor in the system has to do their job. And I am not the one to sit here and try to criticize our law enforcement partners and dictate and kind of cherry pick how they should be policing and how they shouldn't. Obviously, I would have loved to see us find him quicker, especially because we kind of put the community on edge. Understandably so. When you have somebody accused of shooting 5 people on a public interstate, people are going to be nervous about that and think that he is still at large. But what I will say is the day after those incidents occurred, my office had enough information to file second-degree murder charges and 5 counts of armed criminal action and unlawful use of a weapon, thanks to the work of law enforcement and that strong investigative skills. And so obviously it was not the best case scenario, but we were able to file charges less than 24 hours after the incident, and we were able to ultimately put the community at peace.
Melissa Johnson here on KCMO. Final minute, as you look forward, listen, I know that any homicide's too many, but as you try to continue to pull these numbers down, what can you say to Jackson County residents who obviously have been concerned with this issue for years now? You're, I think, now in year 2 on the job. So what's for the back half of the year? Obviously, summer months are still underway. What can you tell people in terms of your goals to try to continue to make sure that the bad guys who have been out and about on the streets of Jackson County for far too long are going to be held accountable?
Absolutely. Listen, we are working around the clock to see those numbers steadily decrease. Crime is still down, especially in our violent categories year over year. Non-fatal shootings are slightly up year over year, but if you look at the 4-year average, we're still looking at a 20+% decrease. And I look forward to talking to the Board of Police Commissioners about those statistics today. We need cooperation. We need you to give police officers access to your cameras. We need you to say something when you see something. Yes, we accept our responsibility as prosecutors to continue to contribute to crime reductions, but it's on all of us. And I've been very encouraged by this community's participation that has resulted in these decreases, but obviously we have a lot more work to do. And I appreciate you giving me time on your platform once again this morning, Pete.
Melissa Johnson, Jackson County prosecutor on KCMO Talk Radio. Thank you, Melissa. Always appreciate your time, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a great day.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks very much to Melissa Johnson on KCMO. Listen, that Oscar Sanchez Munoz thing, once again, that's not her department, but I had to ask about it because that was such a cluster. As someone called the parking at Morton earlier last hour, they're both clusters in their own way. Well, the next segment can be a cluster. Depends how good your calls are. Tirade Tuesday, the only segment where I just say, it's all yours. Do with it what you want. So don't let me down. Most importantly, don't forget about me. Don't let the audience down. That's what matters. Phones are open, 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesdays next.
Hi, everybody. McGraw Millhaven here, host of America at Night. Our 250th anniversary shows continue where we look at the national parks. Coming up at 8 o'clock only on 95.7 FM.
8:34. Good morning. It is a Tuesday, and you know what that means? That means one thing. Let's go.
It's time for Tirade Tuesday on 95.7 FM KCMO.
How dare you?
Let's do it on a Tirade Tuesday. Get it off your chest. 913-408-7957. Let's start in Shawnee. That's where Jeff is this morning. Go ahead on a Tirade Tuesday, Jeff.
Hey, yeah, my tirade for the last couple of weeks, the celebrities, the entertainers, the girl on The View that said the American flag, she thought that was hostile. You know, I drove through Prairie Village for the last couple of years and see the LGBTQ, the Black Lives Matters, and support Ukraine. I never felt like it was hostile. But all you entertainers, the Springsteens and everybody, you guys got plenty of money. You know, go make your place somewhere else, man. I mean, I used to always get mad at guys I work with that complain about coming into work every day. It's like you choose to do it every day, just like these entertainers, man. If you guys don't like it, just go get your utopia somewhere in another country, go buy it and figure it out, and just quit complaining. No, everybody's tired of it.
Well said there, Jeff. Well said. Thank you very much. That's where I got to give Rosie O'Donnell some credit, you know?
She's a real beauty.
At least she put her money where her mouth was and went to Ireland. Now, we think she might be back, right? There's some speculation she may be back. I don't know if she still has. I think she was missing her squirrels in the backyard, her squirrels that she was feeding in Los Angeles before she fled the country. She had them named and the whole thing. I don't know how you tell a squirrel apart from another squirrel. They all look the same. But she might have been missing the squirrels. She may be back in California, but, you know, I don't know for sure.
If she ever left.
Yeah, if she ever left. But she did leave. She did leave
for a while.
I think she did leave. But that's a very good point there, Jeff. Go find your utopia somewhere else. 913-408-7957. Open lines on a Tirade Tuesday. John and Gardner, go ahead.
Morning, Pete. How you doing?
Doing well, John. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, cool. I drive a delivery van, all day, all over Johnson County, and I have KCMO on all day, every day, so I get the full lineup. I love it. There's a train crossing at 159th Street and 169 Highway, and it's traffic is backing up, waiting for the train to go by, and then the train just starts slowing down, and then freaking stops. So what are we supposed to, I got places to be. I got a tight schedule. I got a meet and so forth. And I'm stuck in traffic waiting on a train that just decided to stop, right in the middle of the damn road, It's like, why? What is, so their job is more important than mine? I mean, what? I hate that.
So
this is the same track that runs by the courthouse. It's already congested enough by then. So
you're right about that. You're right about that. All right. You're telling me there's no way for you to go to avoid that intersection, though?
You can maybe if you're lucky, you can get out of traffic and turn right at the Tractor Supply place. They're on 159th Street if you're lucky. But if you're not by that turnoff, you're kind of you're at their bidding. I mean, you're stuck.
I have been by and gotten stuck behind a train there before, and I think it was 3-4 years ago. I had one of the kids in the back seat, and they had to pee, and I was like, "This is not good." Because you're right, that one seems to take longer than, for some reason, other stops throughout Johnson County, by the courthouse.
They have to stop? I mean, do they have no consideration for the rest of us? I got to be somewhere.
Yep.
I mean, I got to be at work. Your kid has to pee. It's like, okay, but don't worry about it. Let's just stop the damn train.
Yep, that's
Why?
well said.
What?
That's well said. Thank you very much there. Appreciate it, John. I have heard there's been some discussion in Olathe on raising the train tracks that go through downtown. But it's a fortune. You would need federal monies. It would be, tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to do it.
They already did it once in Olathe over Ridgeview.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I just think at this point it's going to be too much money. Too much money. All right, next up, Tirade Tuesday. Jason Olathe, what's your tirade, Jason? Go.
Pete, you guys, man, you got me hot under the collar this morning. My tirade is with you punks in there. You're doing too well. You got too many new listeners, and it's making me mad. I used to be able to call in and win tickets to stuff. Now I call in like right away, and I don't get jack squat. So thanks a lot.
I'm sorry, Jason. It's not, 8 years ago when it was just John, me, and I guess you and a couple other listeners. I mean, just be grateful, though, because as the show grows, we get more tickets to give away. So I know it's not as easy for you to win them. However, there are more opportunities to win. They used to maybe once in a while, like they'd throw us a bone and say, oh, fine, here, take a few tickets to this show. Now they want to give away tickets on the show and on the station. So we get them and Keatsman gets them. You got 2 chances every day. And that's how I would look at it, Jason. You got to listen to Kevin at 10:45. He'll have Jason Aldean tickets then. And I would try to take the glass half full approach. But the other reason I'm here is because when I took the job 8.5 years ago, I was like, well, the station's a dumpster fire. There's probably 2 people listening to it. It's been in bad shape. So let's see what we can do in Kansas City. And here we are in 8.5 years later. So it all works out. But I understand your frustration, Jason. Good luck at 10:45. 913-408-7957. Tirade Tuesday. Open lines. Mark in Lenexa, what's your tirade? Go.
Good morning, Pete. My original tirade long time ago was on Mr. Senator Lindsey Graham, but it's too easy to do that one today. But out of your interview yesterday with Roger Marshall, when he said that he was his bestie in the Senate, I about threw up. I'm seriously considering. I don't know anyone who talks about as having a bestie. That's like who you go to a Taylor Swift concert with. And I'm seriously considering Adam Hamilton after hearing that.
Is that right? You are going to lean into Pastor Adam because you didn't like Roger Marshall saying Lindsey Graham was his bestie.
And talking about they're throwing out Bible verses in the I just thought this guy, I honestly, I can't respect a senator who's talking about a bestie.
I think he was trying to just come off like a regular dude. But you're telling me it didn't work for you. You weren't buying it.
Not at all. And I'm not seriously considering Adam Hamilton, but holy cripes, I'm telling you. Just stick to business in the Senate. Get the America passed. And this thing about the daylight savings time. Let's do some real business. Quit having besties and get to work.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much there. Tell me how you really feel. That's a good tirade, though, Mark. I appreciate it.
Whenever I heard Roger Marshall say bestie yesterday, it kind of made me laugh, too. And I was like, he probably got that from his granddaughter or something like that.
I didn't think he'd so upset Mark there in Lenexa, but...
so you're saying things are getting a little casual.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. All right. 913-408-7957. John in Topeka, Tirade Tuesday. Let it rip.
Morning, Pete. People's driving's been really atrocious lately. Like, I've been watching people running ambulances, got the red lights and sirens on, fire trucks, red lights and sirens on. People are not yielding to them. But what really gets to me, Pete, is when they have a funeral procession and they're doing 30 miles an hour on the interstate, on Interstate 70 going west on Interstate 70, and it's like it's 70 in there. And you got people slowing down. It's a rolling blockade. People are trying to exit to the right, people are trying to get around. They're more dangerous to the traffic than just rolling the speed limit in their procession, or just stay on the other roads. You want people to honor your dead one and pull over and honor them? Stay on the side roads, stay on the regular roads to drive wherever you're going to the cemetery versus the interstate, because the interstate's for people who are living and got someplace to go.
That, I've never thought about that, John, but that is a very good tirade. I cannot disagree with that one at all. Can you?
I can't. I don't know what it was, but it was a deal where I'm going home. I'm going east on 435, and I run into this traffic, all lanes. It's 4 lanes, 5 lanes across there. We're going 25. Well, what was going on is up at the road Hypo and different people are doing these figure eights to block all the lanes so that people can't get by them in any of the lanes. And I guess it's to let someone on, so I don't know if it's a funeral procession, but I've encountered that a couple of times where you're like, what is this moving roadblock thing?
Well, either way, that's
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah.
Good for you, John. That's a good one. I have not thought about that at all as it relates to funeral processions going half the speed limit on the interstate. But,
A lot of times, unfortunately, they get separated, and the idea is to stay together. They get separated out there.
why can't they? Why don't they go the speed limit?
I'm not sure. I guess they're trying to keep people together, but I don't know.
You can go the speed limit in the right lane.
Some people have an escort when they do that. I would think that would be the very least.
Mark?
They should be going the speed limit. I've been in one where we go the speed limit.
You've been in a funeral procession going the speed limit? Yeah, but that's a great point. It seems like they're always going 20 miles an hour. I've never thought about that, John. Now I'm thinking about it. To wrap up Tirade Tuesday. Nice job. Well, coming up next, something else I'm thinking about. Do you see this wild stat about who's having babies and who's not? And I think there's a very obvious reason for it. We'll share it with you coming up on KCMO.
From Overland Park to Parkville, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
I saw this yesterday, actually, but then it popped up again for me this morning. A couple of stories about how for the first time in U.S. history, women over 40 are having more babies than teenagers. This has been driven by a 24% surge in older motherhood and a 73% drop in teen pregnancy since 1990. Older mothers now account for 4.1% of all births, narrowly surpassing the 4.0% for teenagers. So here's my sense as to what's going on. As someone who's in my late 30s, obviously, many of my peers, friends I grew up with, all in their late 30s as well. And, people are at that phase where they may have one kid. They want two. They're realizing time is of the essence. It's now or never. They may have two and they're like, oh, gosh, we want a third. Maybe it's 3 to 4. Maybe it's, dare I say, 4 to 5. Someone told me once you get above 3, it doesn't really matter anyway. I can't confirm or deny that. We're at 3, so I don't know the answer, but that's what I've heard.
I think amusement park rides in even numbers 2, 4, 6.
Yes. So what I'm sensing and what I know is going on in our peer group is a lot of people who thought they were done at 1, 2, or 3 are now like having that, oh my goodness, do we add one more to the equation? And as people get married later, get started later, that conversation is happening now in their late 30s. So that baby might now be born after the mother is age 40. I don't think this is the worst thing in the world. In fact, it also means that teen pregnancies being down is overall, I think, a net positive because too many times those women were having babies out of wedlock, right? I mean, let's be honest, the teen pregnancy, think about the TV show on MTV. Let's be honest, it wasn't oftentimes people who had their act together. That's the nicest way to put it.
Right. They make TV shows, as you indicated.
They were disasters. So as much as I think also there's a realization for people as they get to their late 30s, early 40s, like, wait, I actually want a family. I've been sold a bill of goods. It's one big scam.
I'm wondering if on the upper end something is true in that less of the 40-plus births are oops.
Yes. I don't think that they are oops. I think
I wouldn't think so now. I think they're much more intentional than it would have been 10, 15 years ago.
I agree.
Certainly 20.
Yes, that's a good point as well. A generation ago, the baby over 40 was, how did that happen? Now it's, oh, wait, we want to add one more to the equation because we got a late start. We were told to focus on our careers and do nothing else. And now we're realizing that is not the secret sauce to ultimate happiness and fulfillment. So let's have another child and just figure it out. That's what I think is going on here.
But sometimes there is it happened.
How would you know, Mark? What do you know about that?
10-year separation.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Did you get snipped yet, Mark?
Well, I didn't have to.
Oh. Okay. All right. That's all. I don't need to know anymore. I've heard enough. I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, that's all right.
I'm not going to ask any follow-up questions to that. But point is, there is no number 4 in your future.
No.
However you got there is not my business. All right? Okay. All right. I thought you were just waiting for the NCAA tournament so you could sit in an ice pack all day and bet on games like a degenerate.
I was actually planning on doing that this year, and then
something else happened. Okay. All right. That's fine. That's all I need to know. All right. On the text line, Pete, there also are major improvements in health care for pregnancies. Much safer to have a baby over 40 than it used to be. Yes, you're right. And I think that, and maybe this is just me and my bubble, but the families that do want to have that child at 40 are oftentimes, anecdotally speaking, healthy, take care of themselves, in good shape, have just kind of delayed the baby making process for whatever reason. And they're in a good position to go about and do that. That's just been my read on it as well.
I agree. I think that's my same situation observing.
Yeah. On the text line, Pete, I just got married in my late 30s, didn't find the right guy until later in life. I had both my babies in my 40s, and they are in their 20s now. I must have been a trendsetter. Congratulations on the text line. You were ahead of your time. There's no doubt about it. No, but listen, people are getting married later. That's happening as well. And I think that even as people get married, a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm never going to have kids. I don't want kids. And something happens to them. I'm seeing this. Like, we had our first at 30. But I know people who waited till 35. And now they're like, well, this is actually pretty great. I was wrong. Society sold me a bill of goods. Let's have another one or two. But we better move. And that, I think, for a lot of folks in their late 30s is happening right now. And that's why you're seeing this trend. And it's not a bad thing. I saw Ben Shapiro had his 5th kid over the weekend. I mean, his wife had his 5th kid over the weekend. But yeah, and he's tweeting at Elon Musk, being like, hey, Elon, can you create a car that fits a family of 7? Can you get one that comfortably fits 7?
That
because
odd number thing.
That's an odd number thing. And listen, the minivan will do it. Some of the other American-made cars will do it. But it gets a little dicey. You get to 7, man. That's, you got to have your ducks in a row on that one. All right? You got to figure out how to make that 3rd row very comfortable for the kids as they get older. And I don't think Tesla has that option right now. What's that big, ugly truck they've got? Looks like a spaceship.
The Cybertruck?
Yeah, that thing. I don't think that's got a 3rd row. And even if it did, it's so hideous. I could never drive that car. I like
Looks
Elon.
Like it has an attic or a basement in it. I don't know.
I like Elon, but I can't stand that Cybertruck. I really can't. It is just too much for me. Coming up on KCMO right after the news, some breaking news that we got this morning on the United States economy. The good, the bad, and the ugly on that report that just dropped next. We got a number that absolutely shocked the so-called experts. It stunned Wall Street, and the markets are very much in the green this morning. Why? Light inflation data. Consumer prices rose 3.5% in the month of June, much less than expected as energy prices started to ease. So, came in at 0.4% for the month. Annual inflation rate down to 3.5%. Now, this is not all roses, to be clear. I'm not trying to poo-poo a good inflation report. There's still a lot of things that need to be figured out here. But anytime I can play this guy's audio, I will. I just absolutely love him. He's hysterical. Rick Santelli, CNBC, making the announcement this morning. Let's take a listen to old Rick there on CNBC.
Here we go. This is our June release of the Consumer Price Index, expecting a headline number to be negative 0.1%. This is 4 times more negative, minus 0.4%. That would be the biggest negative drop that we've seen since 4/20, since basically COVID timing, which really affected, of course, all of the inflation data points. So that goes back, basically 6-year low. And if we look at the CPI month over month on the core, also under expectations, comes in at goose egg, 0. 0 would be the smallest amount. It would equal Jan of 21. To find a smaller change or a more negative change or minus 0.1%, that's May of 2020. And if we look at the year-over-year numbers, year-over-year headline, 3.5, 0.3 less than expected, much less than the 4.2 in the rearview mirror. That would be the lightest since March of this year when it was 3.3. Year-over-year core, 2.6. 0.2 less than expectations, 0.3 less than the rearview mirror. 2.6 equals March. 2.5 brings you to February.
Thank you, Rick. I love you. I love you, but that's too many numbers for me, okay? Too many numbers. Point is, annual inflation came in at 3.5. The month-over-month number was actually negative from May to June. The biggest decline in more than 6 years, month-to-month, in inflation, and that largely was driven by energy prices because gas has slowly started to trickle down after, of course, the big spike in April and May. Now, we're still sitting, well over $3 a gallon here in the Kansas City area, but starting to come back down. We'll see if that keeps coming back down because right now oil ticked back up here over the last couple of days due to the war with Iran going on and the bombings back in full swing, but we'll see about that. So, listen, I know, and I'm seeing the headlines this morning. You go on social media, and the conservative influencer crowd is like, woo, this is awesome. Why does everyone have to overreact? Why? I don't understand. I don't get it. No one bases their personal well-being on like an inflation report. That's not how people operate. So it's down month to month, but I'm also looking at it and saying, okay, year over year, the inflation number is 3.5%. That's last June to June of 26. That story to me is more about how the Fed target of 2% inflation is such a distant memory. The Fed has always wanted about 2% inflation. That's been their goal. And this number at 3.5%, yeah, it's down from 4.2 in May. It's down from 3.8 in April. But it's still almost double year over year what the Fed wants it to be. And that's much more likely how people calculate their own well-being. Like, where am I today versus last year? That's it. And inflation, listen, you go back to pre-COVID. You heard him mention, hey, these are the lowest inflation numbers month to month since April of 2020. But that was such a dumb time. And when we shut down the economy artificially, I'm not going to compare anything to COVID, but I'm just saying, I know that that's what the numbers show. The inflation stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. So when people say, well, inflation's 3.5 and, yeah, under Biden 4 years ago, it was 9%. We're not going back to some baseline number. It's like, hey, we are where we are, and it's cumulative. It just stacks on top of each other. So there still is no doubt for people who don't own assets, not in the markets, don't own a home yet, like the inflation is even worse because you're not owning assets that can ultimately beat inflation. But it's good news. We'll take it. I don't want to see, and it always happens when you get stuff like this. You get the online influencer space, try to create this utopia that doesn't really exist. Like, guys, you got a rough stretch ahead here in trying to win things over and hang on to power coming up in November. And if you think one month-to-month inflation report's going to do it, you're kidding yourself. And I don't know how this ecosystem works and if they just get the talking points and just run with it. But there's a lot that still needs to be figured out on this front, including, by the way, this war with Iran that just marches on. I haven't even mentioned it yet this morning, but there were more bombings last night. The president basically said it was going to happen yesterday in the Oval Office. Here's what he said.
We've demolished their military. We're hitting them very hard. We had a deal yesterday or the day before yesterday. It was all done. And then they broke up that deal immediately because they found out there was something in the deal they didn't like. And they're wired differently, and we're not going to put up with it. We are just going forward. We're attacking them tonight. We're taking out all of their capability for anything having to do with the Strait, with the Hormuz Strait.
All right, so that was the president yesterday. And to that, I would say, great. It feels somewhat long overdue. Not that I really want to be a part of this thing. I mean, I'm kind of over it. But now that Iran has decided that their only leverage is to try to control the Strait of Hormuz, then we don't really have a choice. Like, not that we want to be on some ground war or ground invasion in Iran or anything like that. I don't think that anyone wants that. I don't believe there's any real appetite for that here in the United States. Some kind of nation-building project, no thanks. But if we have to basically control the Strait ourselves, because if we don't, Iran's going to try to control these international waterways, then so be it. We have no choice. You can't allow terrorists to control the Strait. You just can't do it. But what Trump's going to have to figure out is, how do we get some of the allies in the Middle East, and, I mean, dare I say, some of the European allies, to actually get off their sorry sack of you-know-what and do a little work, because they're the ones who need this Strait open in many respects more than we do? How do we get that to happen? How do we get them to the table? I mean, they're so feckless. They are such cowards. They're good at soccer, but that's about it. How do we get them to do a little bit of the heavy lifting in all this? And obviously, the president has not figured that out yet. I think that they're making the calculation that he knows it's also good for him politically to get these oil prices down, get that Strait open, and get things somewhat back to normal, so to speak, whatever normal looks like. So he's just going to do it, and the United States is going to do it. Because if we don't do it, we suffer as well. Maybe not as much as them, but we do suffer as well. So they figure that we'll just kind of do what needs to be done. But if we didn't do what needed to be done, these guys would be toast, man. They would be completely toast. I thought the Associated Press has such a bad interpretation of this, though. The AP, which, by the way, gets picked up everywhere in the country. So it's not like you have to go to apnews.com. This was on Fox 4's website yesterday. And it's not Fox 4's fault. What a lot of these news outlets do is they just copy and paste from AP on their national stories. So I'm not trying to do this to give Fox 4 a hard time. If I want to give Fox 4 a hard time, I can do that. But this is not an example of that. This is just copy and paste from the AP. The article writes here, the U.S. launched strikes early Tuesday morning on Iran, hours after President Trump said Washington is reinstating a blockade on Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump separately suggested that the United States will charge other ships for safe passage, upending hundreds of years of American policy supporting freedom of navigating across the globe. Trump is upending hundreds of years of American policy supporting freedom of navigating across the globe. How did we get here? Iran got bombed because they supposedly were close to developing nuclear weapons. Believe what you want, that's not the point. Iran then decided their only leverage was to try to control the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump said, nah, you're not going to do that. We're going to do that. If anyone's going to control it, it's going to be us. But it didn't start with him. It was not his idea. I don't think it's what he wants. It's costing us money and time and resources. But for the AP to frame it as Trump has suggested he will charge ships for passage, upending hundreds of years of American policy. Well, way to not tell the whole story, guys. Way to go. But you know what? That's on brand for the AP because it's really just about making Trump look bad for these guys. Coming up, Dave Trabert has some updated information from the Kansas Policy Institute on the Kansas governor's race. He will share that with us coming up next.
From Smithville to Shawnee Mission, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Dave Trabert with the Kansas Policy Institute is here on KCMO Talk Radio. And Dave and the team asked the Kansas gubernatorial candidates to answer property tax questions. Would they be in favor of a levy limit? Would they be in favor of an assessment limit? They asked the Republicans and the Democrats. Dave, good morning. What's the main takeaway from the responses that you got from the candidates here over the last few days?
Well, good morning, Pete. It's good to be here. It's the same takeaway we talked about last week, where we had school boards and school districts defying the interest of voters. What we're seeing here is like with a levy limit. First of all, a levy limit would allow voters to place a restriction on how much of an increase a city, county, whatever could take in. 80% of conservatives, moderates, and self-identified liberals say yes, they want this. And yet we have some candidates for governor say, no, I'm opposed to those. It goes back to the fundamentals of having a representative democracy in our country and our state. We have a lot of people who run for office that push things that the vast majority of their voters don't want, or they oppose what they do want.
So you didn't hear from, I think, Kurt Skoog, the mayor of Overland Park, and then Ethan Corson, who is the state senator from Fairway. You did hear from Cindy Holscher. She is a state rep out of Overland Park who is running, I guess, to the left of the other two candidates. And she wanted no part of a levy limit or an assessment limit. So what's her answer to keep property taxes in check, which even liberals want to see happen in Kansas?
Well, her number one preference seems to be a property tax increase on business. She wants to reduce the property taxes on residential, which only means that everybody else is going to pick up the difference. We already have some of the highest effective property tax rates in business in Kansas, and her proposals like this would make it so much worse. There's what it really comes down to, and this is the same thing with assessment limit, and it's the same issue we find with most Democrats and an unfortunate number of Republicans, is that the interest of local government prevails over the interest of taxpayers. You're basically saying, no, government should be able to charge whatever it wants. Kind of the government knows best, so you let them make the decision. That's just not the way voters want people to act when they elect them.
What about the Republicans? What stood out to you in terms of how they responded to this idea of a limiting property taxes through a levy increase and or assessment limit?
So with a levy increase, Masterson, O'Hara, Sarnecki, and Schwab all said yes. We didn't get a reply from Vicki Schmidt. We know they got it. They said they would send one. They still haven't. We didn't get a reply from Stacey Rogers on the assessment limit, which would protect property owners from unaffordable increases. Like some people are getting 20-30% increases in their home value. They didn't get an income increase to make that an affordable change. So this would put a fixed rate assessment limit on. Here we heard that Masterson, O'Hara, and Sarnecki said yes. Schwab said no, and Holscher said no. We didn't hear from Corson, although we know he voted against them, just like he voted against the levy limit. So we at least have that to go on. And it really is starkly divided between people who are saying, yeah, that's what the public wants. Okay, I'll support it. Even if you have a different idea, and you can have different ideas, but to come out in opposition without any valid explanation of something that the voters, like a 80-20 issue, they want it. Why are you opposing it?
When you look at some of the candidates here down the home stretch of the primary in particular, property taxes, I mean, seems like it's issue number one. I know that a lot of these votes sometimes get caught up in the who did Trump support or who's got the hot take on the cultural war issue of the day. But these are the issues that have the biggest impact on people in terms of how much money they've got in their pockets. So what are you hearing here with a couple of weeks left and where this issue is going to stand in people's decision-making and who they want to be the next governor of Kansas?
Well, that's a great question, and I really don't have an answer because there's so many variables, one of which, maybe the biggest, is that we're seeing a growing number of people in both parties saying they want a candidate who will abolish property tax. And I have a lot of sympathy for that, and it would be great if we can do it.
Can't do it.
We just can't. You can't do it overnight. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it comes down to what kind of trade-offs are voters willing to accept to get rid of $7 billion in property tax. There's three ways, and it's probably a combination of all three would be the only thing that works. You reduce the cost of government through some measures of consolidation, either of services or actual entities. You eliminate exemptions. That sounds easy, but which ones are you going to eliminate? The ones on all the nonprofits, the churches, the nonprofit hospitals? You have to make a decision. And then the other option is to just raise some other tax, and the sales tax is the easiest one to do that has the least economic negative impact. So you can't just say get rid of $7 billion in spending. That's going to bring services tumbling down. So, you can reduce the cost of it, but you have to have a conversation. And there's no right or wrong answers here. But this is going to take time, and people who are saying we got to get rid of it. I mean, we're doing a lot of research on this right now. We're going to publish some of this information, but to just replace it with sales tax, you'd have some municipalities in Kansas with local rates over 30%.
Wow. We'll keep an eye on it. Dave Trabert, keep up the great work and keep on the issue, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
We shall. Thanks, Pete. You have a good day.
All right, you as well. Caller of the day is coming up, and Governor Mike Kehoe on the Royal Stadium next.
everybody. McGraw-Milhaven here, host of America at Night. Our 250th anniversary shows continue where we look at the national parks. Coming up at 8 o'clock only on 95.7 FM.
Well, McGraw's going to be here as part of our America 250 event that we are having at Boulevard on September the 16th. Myself, Keatsman, Guy Benson, Vince Colonnese, and McGraw-Milhaven. Most of the entire lineup is going to be here in Kansas City. You can buy your tickets now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. They've only been on sale for a couple of weeks, and I want to say we're halfway sold. So you got to get them. If you're thinking about it, if you finally realize you can go buy your tickets now on the website, KCMOTalkRadio.com. We play a little Mellencamp because he was here last night playing at Morton Amphitheater, and, you know, there was some concern that he might get political. We heard from some of you on the text line this morning, and that tees up our caller of the day.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
John Mellencamp was in town last night. Did the show up at Morton Amphitheater. We gave away tickets to that a few weeks ago, I think it was. We got Jason Aldean coming up in 25 minutes. Chris and Lee Summit. What's up, Chris? How was it last night?
Morning, Pete. First of all, it was a great show. Thanks for the tickets. I'll echo the texters. I think we sat right next to them, the guys from Independence. They were great. It was a great venue, very nice facility. One word summarizes the parking: cluster. You have 16,000, I think it's seats, and the parking was like, I don't know, for 2,000 people. It reminded me of going to a Chiefs game, and you got 80,000 people all rushing to the exits. But we sat there for 20 minutes probably in our car, and a lot of people just like, well, we know this is going to be bad, so we'll just sit in our car. We won't even get in the line and fire up the car. But it was an outrage of frustration trying to get out of there. The show, if I can do a quick review real quick, he did a great show. He can't quite hit all the notes, like he's 74, but and he looks probably like your dad or maybe your grandpa. He's aged dramatically because I followed him for about the last 30 years, and I didn't even recognize him on the Jumbotron. When they got a little close-up of him, it's like, wow, is that John Mellencamp? But his band is outstanding, but the parking was, wow. Like you said, they got to figure it out.
That
has
been
show they've done.
The major complaint. Getting out of there is a disaster. Absolute
disaster.
And that concerns me. I'll be at the Stapleton show in October. Someone texted in. They said, Pete, I was there. Being the old guy that I am, I left before the show ended. I could hear Cherry Bomb loud and clear in the parking lot, but I got out of there without any problem. But here's the thing. You're paying a lot of money. I mean, you're not because you won the tickets, but people are paying a lot of money for these shows. And the idea that you got to leave early to try to get home at a reasonable hour, I don't know how they have all these top flight engineers to develop these places, and they can't figure out how to get people out in an easy fashion. I don't understand it for the life of me, Chris.
Absolutely. So, I mean, but as far as, when you go to the show, it's a great venue. It's all covered. So if you're going there when it rains or, it faces the west and you're like, the sun's in my eyes. Now it's probably 50 feet at the top of the stage. So you're well under all the shade. So
anything political?
Yeah, he did go down that road a couple times. My wife and I, as we listened to you, we're good conservatives. We looked at each other like, we got Springsteen here or what's going on?
Yeah. Were people booing him, or was it just like, all right, get on with the show?
It was kind of the latter. It's like, come on. It was quick and dirty. He did a couple little snide comments and like, come on, let's go. Just start the next song.
All right. Your favorite song last night was what?
Probably Scarecrow, or, where he talks about the farms. Yeah. Rain on the Scarecrow, I think.
Rain on the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, very nice. Well, hey, Chris, I'm glad you had a good time. Thanks for the review.
Yep. Thanks for the tickets.
You bet. There you go. Chris and Lee Summit, our caller of the day. There you go. Very nice. Very nice. When's the last Mellencamp concert you were at, John? Do you remember?
85, I think, Kemper Arena.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a little bit.
So I'm in 83 and 8. Sometimes when you go see an artist and you see the consecutive tours, like, okay, that's enough for me. So 83, 85.
Well, Keatsman's getting a
he's
kick
just
out of
laughing
that
because he's in high school.
Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny. Well, I thought about, Kevin, did you guys see the email yesterday? They sent out an email here in the building saying, hey, we've got some leftover Mellencamp tickets if you want to go. And I thought about texting Kevin, but I know, he was not on board with Mellencamp after the Chicago Sun-Times had a review saying he got political at the show in Chicago the other night.
I think we all saw the email this morning. So
okay. I should have texted you guys. I know. Mm-hmm. Would you have gone, John, if I had texted you and said there's... No? Okay.
Absolutely not.
All right. So I don't feel bad.
Oh, no. No. I mean, like I said, John doesn't care, so why should I?
And Keatsman didn't go, right? I haven't seen him yet this morning. He did not go?
Kevin didn't go.
Okay, he didn't go. All right. Mark, you would not have gone either, right?
Nah.
Okay, I didn't think so. Mark was too busy looking at his 7-way parlay on the home run derby yesterday.
Missed it by that much.
I saw somebody write on X, like, last night is the worst sports night of the year. There's literally nothing on outside of the home run derby. No World Cup even, like there's nothing on. So the premise of this post I saw yesterday was if you have to bet on sports tonight, you might want to get yourself just a little bit of a checkup. Just last night. But hey, Mark finds a way. He's our man. He takes it down. Now, you got something to say for yourself in there?
If you give me a boost, I'll go for it.
If FanDuel, and they've got great boosts. We love our friends at FanDuel, and they found a way to hook them in last night. I'm going to wait for the Royals to get back in action later this week. Or maybe some World Cup today. That's also on the docket as well. Got Spain and France happening at 2 o'clock on Fox. Speaking of baseball, Governor Mike Kehoe of Missouri was on the show this morning, and we talked about, the arrest of a bunch of human traffickers here in Kansas City over the weekend. That was some welcome news. And then I also wanted to ask him about the Royal Stadium going down there by World War I in Union Station. And I brought that up because, of course, we think it's a done deal, but now there are these petitions that have been approved. The votes and the signatures have been confirmed, and we think we might have to have a vote on the Royal Stadium in Kansas City. I don't know the answer. I don't. I'm just like, this group has the votes. Does it now legally have to go to a ballot? I had this back and forth with Mike Kehoe, and here was what he had to say. Governor Mike Kehoe is joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio. So, by the way, Governor, I mean, obviously that whole part of town, World War I, Union Station, was rocking the last few weeks with Fan Fest and whatnot. The Royals are going to be down there, of course. Have you been following this story as it relates to potentially having to put the Royals on the ballot in Kansas City? And is that changing anything for you from a state perspective and what may be next with this process?
No, I mean, the tools that we've put in front of them, I spent a lot of time with the Royals ownership and management over the last several weeks as I've been in and out of Kansas City. I think they all believe that we're in a good place, Mayor Lucas and others, to move forward with the initial offer that we made, which was a good deal, as I've always said, for the citizens of Missouri, and not a highly leveraged deal like we saw maybe Kansas was offering in some packages. So I think we're in a good spot. But, Pete, anytime you have a major, project like this, there's always going to be, some peaks and valleys. I've also talked to the Hall family. They're very excited. What a lot of people missed in that announcement of the stadium is, Hallmark Cards building a new headquarters, staying down in that location. I mean, that's a significant piece of non-sports related economic activity that we should all be proud of and thankful that the Hall family is committing to.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think that people are excited. The question now becomes, though, if this petition group did get the votes that they needed, and that thing is legally required by the city of Kansas City to go to a vote of the people, does that slow up anything from your perspective? And should the city just go ahead and put it on the ballot and be done with it and see what happens?
Well, I'll let the mayor and the city council make that decision. Certainly it's something you want to keep an eye on and watch what's happening, but they believe they are within the boundaries of what the charter allows them to do, and I think that speaks for itself.
He wants no part of it. Mike Kehoe does not want to talk about it. I don't know what's going to happen. Quentin Lucas thinks he can just go ahead by somehow working around the signatures that came in, which I guess legally are supposed to trigger some kind of a vote of Kansas City. Listen, if I'm the mayor, I wouldn't fight this thing like crazy. You've waited this long. I think you have a plan that in many respects is welcomed by Kansas City in a way that the last plan was not. I think the Chiefs going to Kansas will also trigger some people to say, I want to keep this team in Missouri. I want to keep this team in Kansas City. I'll vote yes for it. I think it gives you a mandate on the project. I would not go out of my way, because if you go out of your way to be like, we don't have to do this, there's no reason to go vote on it. It's not that I'm dying for a vote. Like I'm not as strongly against this project as I am the Chiefs. And even the Chiefs, it's more about how it's financed. It's not about the project itself. I'm cool with the location. If I was a Kansas City voter on the project down at Crown Center, I'd vote yes. But I wouldn't try to ram this thing through and try to find every legal loophole that you can if you can put it to a vote, because I actually think you'd be pleasantly surprised with the outcome. And all you're going to do is potentially find yourself in a situation where you're pissing more people off by not wanting to go to the vote. Now, maybe he figures, hey, I'm a lame duck. I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me. It's not my problem. I'm going to get this thing through. We're going to have a stadium there no matter what. But I don't know. Kehoe being as evasive as he was with that answer and the follow-up to it tells me I don't think he's sure what exactly is going to happen with this deal. And I'm not sure he wants any part of getting involved in it. One thing he is getting involved in is the 5th district race. He's endorsing Rick Bratton, who's the state senator out of Cass County. He ran against Mark Alford in the 4th district 4 years ago. Now he's running in this new 5th district to be the Republican against Emmanuel Cleaver. And it's going to be Rick Bratton or Taylor Burks is what it seems like to me. I'm surprised by that endorsement because people are going after Rick Bratton. I don't have a strong opinion on this race. I mean, whoever gets out of it, I'm going to pull for over the musty man himself, Emmanuel Cleaver. But I'm surprised because Bratton, I don't want to say he has baggage. He's a solid conservative. But there was this huge piece in the Missouri Times, which is the publication that Scott Fawn puts together. And the piece in the Missouri Times was alleging Rick Bratton is the next Todd Akin. Now, Todd Akin is the guy who ran against Claire McCaskill back in 2012, and he's the one who, used the phrase legitimate rape that, of course, was like this, oh my gosh, moment in that campaign. I wasn't even living here then, and I remember that thing getting national attention. That was a wild story. So they're claiming, some people are claiming, including Mark Anthony Jones, who is the former Jackson County GOP chairman, that Rick Bratton is Todd Akin 2.0. I don't see it right now. We'll get him on the show here in the next few days to talk about it. But Kehoe did say he's endorsing Rick Bratton, and he said up north between Chris DeGaulle and Nathan Willett, he thinks both guys would do a very good job. So he's staying out of that race between Nathan Willett and Chris DeGaulle. We'll wrap up the show, 913-408-7957, before Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled comes up at 10 o'clock.
On Tuesday's Guy Benson Show, President Trump's Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, will join the show, as will Eli Lake, coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
Now, Mark, you're the only one on the show that watched the Home Run Derby last night. No, you watched it, John? Okay, sorry. That was news to me. John knowing how to turn on Netflix is also news to me, but he got it.
Comes with my phone bill. I can't cancel it. We got Netflix and Hulu, and Hulu went out from under us. It's not renewing.
Okay.
And if Netflix pulls the same thing, don't renew it, but they haven't.
All right, so far, so good. You got the Netflix. You know how to work it. Great. Impressed.
Oh, it takes forever to load.
Yeah, it does. Did you guys, was Will Ferrell as bad as the reviews were?
Yes.
Okay. So Will Ferrell has not been funny since Anchorman.
Since I went to the Mellencamp concert in 85.
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely great. I mean, I think about the guy in the heyday of Old School and Elf and Anchorman. But then I realized, and now I'm starting to feel like you, John, Old School is almost 25 years old.
Oh, I had a bad epiphany that Peter Frampton Comes Alive was 50 years ago when I was 16. And then it really split my mind when I said, well, half of that, 25, has been since 2000.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Which
funny.
all seems like 5 years. Too.
That is really funny.
But I digress.
So they break out Will Ferrell, and it's like, who's this intended audience here? Like the key demo for Will Ferrell, the people that would have been on the cusp of Will Ferrell being funny would be like my age, late 30s. And those people are kind of already into baseball. It's not going to bring in the younger crowd. Will Ferrell's like who their dad or their uncle likes.
My guess is he has a Netflix-only movie coming out soon, so they brought him on.
Is that right?
I would guess that. I don't know for sure.
But you're right. It's all about cross-promotion. So he just wasn't funny, and it was awkward, and he bombed out.
Just in the middle, like Michael Buffer's out there doing this whole deal from a home plate-shaped wrestling ring. And so the guys are coming out one at a time as he's doing the Jack Caglione.
Gosh.
So here's Will. Hey, Michael Buffer, you need some lemon tea or a big dish of pasta? What?
That's bizarre.
He wasn't even supposed to be acting with Buffer. Buffer's out by second base. Will's on the third baseline at a table. And so he just blurts it into the microphone like they're at the bar or something.
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was awkward.
Well, another reason I'm glad I did not pay for it for one night.
Absolutely.
I wanted to watch it. I did. I was bummed I didn't see Caglione, even though he didn't get past the first round. He had some moonshots. But I saw him on the replays this morning. And you know what? When you're enjoying ice cream with a 5-year-old who just got done with a 6-week softball clinic, I wouldn't trade that for anything else in the world last night anyway. All right? There's no way. She was the happiest kid in Johnson County last night, getting a certificate for completing a 6-week, once-a-week Monday night softball clinic. You would have thought that she just hoisted the World Series MVP trophy. She was loving every second of it. And then when Dad told her, I didn't tell her before practice because I wanted to make sure it was kind of a surprise on the back end. And if I told her before, she'd be yelling at me from the field, Dad, when's the ice cream? When's the ice? So we were walking away. I said, do you want to go get some ice cream? And my goodness, that look on that 5-year-old's face. When I'm on my deathbed, I'll remember that look. Keats Been Uncanceled is next. Have a great rest of your day.